Welcome back to the journey of Buddhism Seeds, where ancient Zen stories are told again through the breath of stillness and the heart of compassion. Tonight, I invite you to walk with me through one of the deepest teachings the Buddha ever left behind: impermanence and non-self. These two words may sound distant, yet they flow through every breath, every heartbeat, every fleeting moment of gain and loss in human life. Impermanence is not a philosophy to discuss. It is the truth you touch every day when a flower blooms and fades, when another strand of hair turns gray, when someone's smile from yesterday becomes only a memory today. And non-self is not a teaching to memorize. It is a mirror showing us that amidst all these changes, there is no real self to hold on to. We suffer not because the world is impermanent, but because we want everything to stay the same. We cling to a person, a belief, or an image of ourselves, wishing they would never change. But the harder we cling, the more exhausted we become. And when we lose what we held, it feels as if a part of us is gone. Yet in truth, it is only an illusion dissolving. The Buddha taught all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, suffering ends. These words are not meant to frighten us, but to awaken us, to free us from the illusion that everything can remain as it is today. When we clearly see that all things change in every breath, we no longer regret the past or fear the future. We learn to cherish this present moment fully. Impermanence does not take joy away from you. It teaches you to be grateful for every small joy. Non-self does not make you cold. It opens your heart with compassion because you see that everyone is dissolving just like you in the same gentle flow of birth and decay throughout the universe. And when you understand this, something miraculous happens. Your mind naturally grows still, like a lake whose ripples have settled. Right there, true peace begins, not given by anyone, not owned by you, but revealed when you stop resisting change. Tonight, between steady breaths and a quiet heartbeat, I invite you to enter a series of Zen stories about impermanence and non-self, where every image and every word will bring you closer to the unchanging nature of the awakened mind. And to begin this journey, let us listen to the first story. The Broken Glass. A story that seems simple, yet holds profound wisdom. One afternoon in the garden behind the monastery, the wind rustled through the bamboo, scattering leaves across the pond. A young monk came to his teacher, his eyes filled with sorrow as deep as dusk. He said, "Master, I'm afraid of losing what I love. Whenever someone leaves or something breaks, I feel as if my heart breaks too." The old monk smiled gently. He held a clear crystal glass in his hand, lifted it to the light, and as sunlight refracted into countless rays, he said softly, "Do you see this? To me, this glass is already broken." His words rang through the silence like a bell light, yet deep. And from that moment, the real story of impermanence began. The teacher lifted the glass again, letting the afternoon light pass through it. Each beam broke into shimmering colors, as if the light itself were smiling. He asked, "Do you find this glass beautiful?" The young monk answered quietly, "Yes, Very beautiful and precious too. The teacher nodded and smiled faintly. To me, this glass is already broken. The novice froze, surprised. The glass lay intact in his teacher's hand, sparkling. How could it already be broken? The teacher placed it on the wooden table, poured in some hot tea. Steam rose and curled softly in the air. He spoke slowly. When I know it's already broken, I drink tea in peace. I no longer fear dropping it, no longer fear losing it. Each time I lift it, I'm grateful for this moment I can still use it. I hear the sound of water touching crystal, and I feel myself living completely in the present. Because I know one day it will truly break, but that day won't bring me pain. For in my heart it was broken long ago. The young monk stayed silent. The golden light of sunset spread across the floor, painting more stillness into the room. The teacher lifted the cup again. Sunlight shimmered through the tea like a moment of eternity. You see, he continued, everything in life is like this glass, your body. Those you love, even me. Everything is slowly fading, though you may not see it yet. When you truly see, this loss will no longer wound you, and you will treasure every moment that remains. A soft breeze brushed the veranda, making the glass tremble and ring like a delicate bell. The teacher looked kindly at the novice. Do you hear that? That's the sound of impermanence. It's not sad, not joyful. It's simply real. The novice bowed his head in silence. The last rays of sunlight scattered across the floor like shards of crystal. He understood then, the glass did not only hold water, it held a lesson on how to love, to let go, and to watch everything dissolve without fear. In Buddhist teaching, contemplating impermanence is a fundamental practice, the first doorway on the path to awakening. Everything in the universe, from the smallest dust to the brightest star, follows the same cycle: birth, existence, change, and dissolution. Nothing stands still. Nothing lasts forever. The glass in the teacher's hand is the image of everything we try to possess: our loved ones, our wealth, our reputation, even this body. When we believe this is mine, suffering begins immediately. Impermanence obeys no one's will. Beauty fades, those we love depart, and our bodies change with each breath. If we do not see this truth, every shift in life will shake us like a person trembling in the first cold wind, unsure if from fear or chill. But when we truly see the glass is already broken, we see the essence of impermanence itself. And in that moment, fear dissolves, because we understand nothing is truly lost, everything only changes form. Water becomes cloud, cloud becomes rain, rain nourishes life anew. Dissolution is just another name for continuation. From there, non-self also reveals itself. When we no longer cling to mine, I have or I lose, the mind becomes vast and free. One who sees impermanence is not unfeeling, but deeply compassionate. For only by understanding how fragile everything is, can we truly cherish, be grateful, and love fully in this moment. In life, each of us holds our own glass, perhaps a loved one, a passion, or a dream we fear losing. When we haven't yet learned to accept impermanence, we cling tightly. We try to control, and we suffer when we can't. But ask yourself, is there anything in this life truly within your grasp? Our body changes each day, our thoughts each hour, and our loved ones cannot stay forever. Yet we still cling as if effort could stop time. But strangely, when we loosen our grip instead of tightening it, something miraculous happens. We don't lose, we become free. Contemplating impermanence is not pessimism or resignation. It is the art of awareness, a way of living that knows everything is fading, so that we can live each remaining moment fully. When we know life is finite, every embrace feels warmer, every word becomes more precious, and every sunrise is a small miracle. Those who understand impermanence are not indifferent. They love more deeply, give more thanks, and anger less. If you are grieving, remember, the glass is only broken in form, not in essence. The water becomes cloud, the cloud becomes rain, and the light in the crystal remains in the sun. Nothing is truly lost. Everything continues in another shape, another journey. When night falls, sit quietly in your room. The soft lamp glows upon the wall. The table, the book, the photo frame, all still there. Yet if you look deeply, you'll see them silently changing. Wood ages, paper yellows. Even the light shifts with each breath. Nothing stands still, not even you. Exhale gently and whisper, "Everything is passing," and that is natural. When you inhale, feel life arriving. When you exhale, let all attachments go. Between those two breaths, life continues softly, effortlessly. When the mind stops clinging, sleep will come like a cloud drifting over a mountain peak, unforced, unseeking. Just release and let stillness envelop you. Before closing your eyes, whisper, "The glass is broken, and I am living in the moment it was whole." This is not regret, it is gratitude. Because this fragile, fleeting, impermanent moment is exactly where true peace resides. Impermanence is not only in the broken glass, it lives in every breeze, every flickering flame, every breath moving through this body. Sometimes the lesson appears precisely when we try to hold on to what is fading, like trying to catch the light of the sunset. An old Zen tale says a young monk tried to shield a candle from the wind, but the wind blew it out. The master simply looked and said softly, "Don't protect the flame, protect the heart. The candle will fade as all things do, but the awakened heart never goes out." From the broken glass to the candle in the wind, the journey of impermanence continues as gentle as a dissolving breath, returning to its original stillness. Have you ever tried to hold on to something, a person, a feeling, or a moment that seemed perfect, only to find that the harder you held, the faster it slipped away? Some try to hold on to love so it won't fade. Some fear the passing of youth. Some simply wish happiness would never change. But the tighter we cling, the more tired we become. It's like trying to cup water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes through your fingers. We may understand that all things, people, and emotions are moving toward dissolution. But understanding impermanence is one thing. Living peacefully with it is another challenge entirely. People can say everything will eventually be lost, yet when the flame in their hands begins to fade, fear still arises. Fear of losing the light, the warmth, and the meaning of what they hold. One early summer evening in the temple courtyard, candles were being lit in preparation for the sunset ceremony. The mountain wind blew softly but steadily, making the flames tremble like the breath of the earth itself. A young novice sat by the veranda, struggling to shield a candle with both hands, then using his body to block the wind. But the more he tried to protect it, the stronger the wind grew, until finally the flame went out, leaving behind a thin wisp of smoke fading into the air. He froze, as if he had just lost something precious. The master looked at him, but said nothing. After a while, when the wind calmed, he quietly spoke. "Do not hold the flame, hold the mind." The words rang out in the still afternoon like a bell. The novice looked up, his eyes still filled with regret, but within them began to glimmer something deeper, as if the same wind that had blown out the flame had also opened a door inside his heart. For behind that simple sentence lay a vast realm of Zen, where impermanence was no longer something to fear, but simply a part of the breathing life that never truly ceases. That night, the small temple on the mountainside rested beneath a silver moon. The stillness was so complete that one could hear the wind slipping through pine branches and smell the damp earth after the evening rain. Under the main hall's veranda, hundreds of candles flickered, tiny stars scattered across the ground. It was a memorial night for those who had passed away. Every sound grew silent until only breath, heartbeat, and the whisper of distant wind remained. In that wavering light, the young novice named Ryota was assigned to watch over the candles. When the first gust came, he panicked and ran along the veranda, crouching to shield each flame. When his hands weren't enough, he used his whole body to block the wind. But the mountain wind had no form, no direction. It slipped through the folds of his robe and every empty space. One candle went out, then another and another. The courtyard grew dim. The more he tried to protect them, the tighter his chest became. "I can't keep them lit, master," he said, his voice trembling. "I've tried my best, but the wind keeps blowing them out." The old Zen master looked toward the courtyard where a few faint flames still danced. He asked softly, "Tell me, what do you think you're protecting?" "I want to keep the fire from dying," Ryota replied. "Why?" "Because when the fire dies, darkness will come. Everything won't look as beautiful anymore." The master said nothing more. He reached out and gently blew out the nearest candle. Both of them stood in silence, bathed in moonlight. "Do you find the darkness frightening now?" Ryota looked around and shook his head. "No, I only see the moon shining brighter." The master smiled, his voice calm as the wind. "That is why I said don't hold the flame, hold the mind. When your mind is bright, darkness has no power over you. The outer flame may go out, but the inner light never fades." Placing a hand on Ryota's shoulder, he continued, "You see, the wind doesn't come to destroy the flame. It comes to teach you how to let go. If you keep trying to cover it, you'll only tire yourself. But when you accept it, you'll see that nothing needs to be held. The flame dies and rekindles, the moon wanes and becomes full again. Only the mind is the place where you can truly rest." Ryota gazed at his teacher for a long moment, then turned toward the courtyard. The wind was still blowing, but this time he didn't shield the flames. He simply sat quietly, letting the wind brush through his hair as the candles went out one by one in peace. And in that darkness, he saw the moonlight covering the whole temple yard. a light that needed no protection, yet had never left. In the Buddha's teaching, impermanence is not a pessimistic idea, but a universal truth. Everything in existence is moving, transforming, and dissolving with every moment. Nothing lasts forever, not even what we love most. Yet people fear impermanence because they identify themselves with what they try to keep. The candle in this story symbolizes everything we cherish: love, peace, reputation, or even the image of self we cling to. The wind represents the flow of life itself, time, circumstances, and change. We try to shield the flame to make it last, but the tighter we hold, the more we suffer. Because in reality, nothing truly belongs to us. When the Master said, "Don't hold the flame, hold the mind," it wasn't merely to comfort, it was a profound instruction. To hold the mind means to return to the unmoving center amidst change, to see clearly without being swept away. The outer flame may die, but the inner light of wisdom, compassion, and peace will never go out unless we let the winds of fear, anger, and craving blow it away. For when the mind is calm, even the strongest winds cannot dim the flame of insight. But when the mind is restless, even on a windless night, the candle goes out by itself, extinguished by its own fear. In life, we often try to keep the flame to hold on to a past emotion, a person we once loved, a belief that once lifted us, or a moment that made us happy. But holding on forever is impossible. People change, circumstances change, and we ourselves change. The more we cling to what has already shifted, the more weary we become, and the further we drift from the truth of life. What we need is not to protect the flame outside, but to nurture the lamp within. That lamp is the peaceful mind lit by mindfulness and wisdom. When we live in awareness, we understand that loss is simply another form of transformation. Nothing truly disappears. It only changes form, like a candle that goes out so its light can merge with the air. Whenever you find yourself mourning something that has passed, ask, am I grieving because the flame has gone out, or because I haven't yet learned to see by my own light? When you learn to hold the mind, you no longer need to shield the flame, because you yourself have become the light. The light from the mind cannot be extinguished by the wind. It is beyond time, beyond loss, beyond grasp, for it is the very nature of awareness itself. See everything in life as candles. They come to offer light, and when their time is complete, they go out. But once their light has touched your heart, it never truly leaves. Before you fall asleep, spend a few minutes in quiet reflection. Ask yourself, what have I been trying to hold on to today? An unspoken anger, a word you couldn't release, an unanswered hope, or someone you can't yet let go of. Take a deep breath, then exhale gently, as if blowing out a candle. Do not fear the darkness, for only when the lamp is out can the moonlight appear. Allow yourself to let go so the mind can rest. As you lie down and your breath slows, imagine yourself as a candle that has just stopped burning, no longer striving, no longer resisting, only radiating the soft light of acceptance. That is meditation in sleep, where there is nothing left to guard, only the breath and the quiet of the heart. And if in your dreams a breeze passes by, don't be afraid. Remember the old master's words, don't hold the flame, hold the mind. For when you can hold your mind, even when the candle has gone out, the light has never truly left. It has simply returned to where it has always been within you, where true peace has never been absent. And when we have learned to let the flame go without fearing the dark, we begin to see something even greater. Amidst the vast ocean of existence, another question arises. If I hold on to nothing, then who am I in the whole of this life? That question leads us to an ancient dialogue between a tiny grain of sand and the great ocean, where the boundary between I and the universe gently dissolves. Let us continue our journey to the next story, where a grain of sand asks, "Who am I in the great sea?" And the ocean replies, "You are me." When we understand this, we realize we have never truly been alone, for we have never been apart from the whole. Sometimes we suddenly realize that no matter how deeply we love something, the winds of life will still pass through it. Every effort to hold on only exhausts the heart even more. Yet when we finally learn to let go, a deeper question begins to arise within. If everything fades away, then who am I truly? When this body changes, when emotions shift, when names are only temporary, and even memory begins to blur what remains that can still be called me, that question, though it seems abstract, is actually the doorway to meditation. Everyone who steps onto the path of awakening must face that question at least once, not through intellect, but through the silence of the heart. Some seek the answer through long pilgrimages, where their footsteps blend with the dust of the road and the mountain wind. Some find it in the solitude of the night, where the sound of the waves merges with the rhythm of their breath. Some discover it at dawn, when the first light of day touches the wet sand after the rain. In that scene, countless grains of sand glisten under the morning sun, tiny, fragile, yet each containing the reflection of the sky, the sea, and the sun. Each grain of sand is its own universe, mirroring the vast ocean as a whole. And in that moment, an old story returns to mind. A story of a little grain of sand and the great ocean. It seems simple, yet within it lies the timeless answer to the question that has haunted humankind for ages. Who am I in this boundless stream of life? Once on a quiet shore, there was a tiny grain of sand among countless others. Every day it watched the waves come and go, carrying its friends far out to sea. The little grain often wondered, who am I in this endless expanse? Do I have any meaning, or am I just another speck of dust swept away? One morning, the wind rose and the tide surged. A great wave crashed onto the shore, sweeping the little grain into the sea. Terrified, it struggled, trying to cling to the nearby grains, but all were being carried away with it. Caught in the swirl of water and fear, it cried out, "I'm disappearing. I'm losing myself." Through the roar of the waves, a deep, gentle voice echoed vast and calm, as if from the heart of the ocean itself. "Are you afraid of dissolving?" The trembling grain answered, "Yes, I'm afraid of losing myself. If I merge with you, will I still be me?" The ocean smiled, its voice soft as a breeze over its surface. "You never left me. Since the moment you were born, my water has flowed within you. When you rested on the shore, it was only a brief moment when the wind carried you away. Now, as you return, you are not lost. You are coming home to where you've always belonged. Hearing this, the little grain felt lighter. Its fear melted away. It felt the cool water embracing it, felt itself blending with each ripple, each breath of wind, each ray of light dancing on the sea. In that instant, it realized something profound. I was never separate. I had only forgotten that I have always been part of the ocean. The waves still rolled. The wind still blew. But the grain was no longer afraid. It dissolved into the water, losing its form. Yet in that dissolution, it felt more alive than ever, light as breath, vast as the sea, and still as the essence of all things, the grain of sand and the ocean. Is a profound parable about human beings and the universe about the individual and the whole about I and everything. The grain of sand represents the small self, the ego, that humans try so hard to protect, define, and affirm each day. The ocean represents the Dharma realm, the infinite essence of life where all boundaries dissolve and there is no longer me and others, only pure, limitless interbeing existence. In Zen teaching, this is the essence of anatta, non-self. Non-self does not mean nothing exists. It means nothing exists independently. All forms of existence arise through interdependence, supporting and shaping one another. A grain of sand could not exist without waves, wind, sunlight, and time. All these conditions come together and interact to create that one small shimmering speck. In the same way, no human being can exist in isolation. Our breath comes from the trees. The water in our body was once rain. The food we eat is the gift of the earth, the sun, and countless human hands. Even the smile of a stranger can become a warm current in our hearts. We are not separate. We are woven into the endless web of life. It is only because we forget this that we feel lonely. We try to prove our worth to be different, to control our feelings and assert our identity. But the more we do so, the farther we drift from truth. Loneliness does not arise from the absence of others. It arises from forgetting that we have never been apart from the whole. When the grain realized it had never left the ocean, it no longer feared dissolving. Likewise, when a person realizes they are part of vast living existence, the fear of loss fades away. We no longer need to prove our worth because true value lies not in separation, but in connection, understanding, and coexistence with all that is. That is the spirit of Zen, to return to wholeness, where self dissolves into truth, and everything becomes complete in boundless stillness. In life, we often forget a simple but profound truth. We are not truly separate. When someone hurts us, our first reaction is to draw a line. They are wrong. I am right. When we achieve something, we secretly think I am better. When we fail, we condemn ourselves. I am not enough. From this illusion of I and others arise all forms of suffering, jealousy, loneliness, and comparison. But if we pause and look deeply, everything appears different. The breath we inhale is the same air that trees exhale. The water we drink today may once have been dew on someone's roof half a world away. The smile of a stranger might save us from a dark day, and the tears we shed in despair might teach someone else compassion. Everything in life is interwoven by invisible threads interacting, supporting, and transforming one another. No one truly exists alone. When we realize this, we begin to live differently, gentler, kinder, more at peace. Instead of striving to stand out by being different, we learn to find peace by belonging. For one who knows they belong to the ocean no longer fears losing a single drop of water. Even when the waves dissolve, the water remains. Though forms change, essence is one. Take a moment to look within yourself. When you're angry at someone, perhaps you forget that they are suffering too. When you feel lonely, perhaps you forget that in every breath, the entire world is breathing with you. Trees, clouds, air, light. And when you lose someone you love, you think love has vanished. But in truth, it has only changed shape, flowing on as warmth within your heart. That is how a grain of sand lives within the ocean, no longer afraid to dissolve, no longer afraid to lose, for it has realized it has never been apart from life itself. When we see this truth, not only do we live more peacefully, but we begin to touch true freedom, the kind that comes not from owning or controlling, but from merging and understanding. Before you fall asleep tonight, sit quietly for a few moments. Feel the breath moving in and out of your chest, the heartbeat softly echoing the rhythm of life, the warmth spreading gently through your body. Then reflect. Each breath I take is a gift from the trees. Each heartbeat is the echo of life flowing through me. Imagine the idea of I, the sense of being a separate self, melting like salt in water. No effort needed, no resistance. Just relax, just breathe, and you are already returning to the vast ocean of being. If your heart carries a sadness, a memory, or the image of someone you miss, don't push it away, and don't cling to it either. Let it pass through your mind like waves over the sea's surface, rising, fading, and returning to the water. In the depths of the ocean within, no wave ever truly disappears. It only changes form, merging again with stillness. Let your mind dissolve into that vastness too, so that sleep is no longer a weary surrender, but a homecoming to the very life that breathes through you. When there is no more, I must, I need, or I want. When body and mind both rest, sleep will arrive as gently as clouds drifting across an open sky. And in that moment, you are not merely sleeping, you are merging with peace itself. And when you begin to realize that you have never been apart from the great stream of life, your mind becomes still as water after the waves. In that stillness, you see clearly the rhythm of arising and fading, coming and going. Green leaves turn yellow, then fall to the earth, not to die, but to return to the natural cycle of life. The next Zen story is about exactly that. The last autumn leaf. A Zen master once said as he watched the leaves fall, "Leaves do not die, they simply return." Birth and death are merely two sides of the same flow where every loss is a natural returning to the truth of things. We understand that when we realize we belong to the whole, loneliness dissolves. Yet then another question quietly arises within. If everything merges into one, what is truly lost when a living being passes away? A falling leaf, a departed loved one, a fading memory, we call these loss. But is anything truly lost? In the great current of life, everyone has experienced farewell. Some cry when they see the first leaf fall in autumn. Some sit in silence beside a hospital bed, helpless before what cannot be held. We suffer because we believe birth and death are two distant shores, that when life ends, only an endless emptiness remains. But from the Buddhist view, birth and death are not separate points. They are two breaths of the same living rhythm. Inhaling is birth. Exhaling is death, and both exist within one continuous movement. There is no boundary, only the gentle circulation of being. One autumn morning, in the small garden of a Zen monastery, mountain winds carried the scent of fallen leaves and damp earth. Under the Bodhi tree, a young novice was sweeping the courtyard. With each stroke of the broom, more leaves fell. He looked up at the branches and asked his teacher, "Master, why must the leaves fall? Why can't the tree hold them forever?" The Zen master smiled, picked up a freshly fallen leaf, and placed it on his palm. The morning light shone through it, the leaf as thin as a fragment of time. He said softly, "Leaves do not die. They simply return." In that simple sentence lay the wisdom of impermanence and continuation. Nothing is ever truly lost. The leaf returns to the earth to nourish the roots. A loved one returns through the breath of memory. Love itself returns as light within the heart. Everything merely changes form, dissolving to continue existing quietly and completely, like the breath of life itself. That year, autumn came earlier than usual. Mist covered the mountain slopes like a thin veil of time. The Bodhi tree before the temple glowed gold, and each gentle gust sent hundreds of leaves drifting down like a soft rain of rebirth. Rin, a 17-year-old novice, still kept his habit of sweeping every morning. The sound of the broom brushing against stone mixed with the rustle of dry leaves, deepening the stillness of dawn. But the more he swept, the more the leaves fell, as if his work could never be finished. A quiet fatigue arose not of the body but of the heart's helplessness before the endlessness of letting go. One morning, after gathering a great pile of leaves, Rin looked up at the branches still full above and sighed, "Master, why can't I finish? The leaves fall again and again. It's as if life never stops dissolving." The Zen master stood beneath the veranda, holding a cup of tea, eyes calm as he watched the leaves swirl in the wind. He smiled gently. "You see them falling, but truly they are returning." Rin looked puzzled. "Returning where, master, to the earth," he said slowly, voice warm and steady. "From the earth, the tree will grow again. The leaves will turn green again. Nothing is lost, only exchanged within the flow of life." Rin fell silent. A yellow leaf landed softly on his palm. In the morning light, its veins shimmered like lines of time, like a living breath. He asked quietly, "But master, if I die, will I return like this leaf?" The teacher set his cup down and looked at him, eyes deep as still water. "You will return as all things do. You do not disappear. You simply cease to wear this form. The life within you continues as a drop of rain on a branch, as a flower blooming at dawn, or as a breath within another being. No one is ever truly lost. They only change names in the stream of life." A breeze passed, and the last leaf on the branch drifted down, landing softly on Rin's shoulder. The master smiled kindly. The leaf has completed its purpose. It does not resist the season, nor fear the fall. It surrenders to nature, light as breath. Rin looked down at the leaf on his shoulder. The wind carried the scent of earth and tea. He smiled no longer, sweeping in haste. Each motion of the broom became slow and reverent, as if bidding farewell to old friends returning home, back to the soil, back to silence, back to the ever-flowing current of life. In the Buddha's teaching, birth and death are not opposites. They are two movements of the same life. When a seed sprouts, that is birth. But for the sprout to rise, the old seed must dissolve, that is death. If the seed refused to break apart, the plant could not grow. Just as the sunset does not destroy light, it only carries it to another part of the world. Birth and death are merely two sides of one reality, like two faces of a coin, like day and night, following each other without end. In the eye of wisdom, there is no real death, only continuation in new form. When the Master said leaves do not die, they return. It was not to comfort sorrow, but to express insight. A falling leaf seems to vanish, but in truth, the entire universe is at work. The leaf becomes compost, nourishing the tree, giving rise to new buds. Life never ends, it simply transforms and continues without pause. What humans call death is only the transformation of living energy. This body is but a temporary robe when it tears. Consciousness is not lost. It merely changes form, like water becoming clouds, clouds becoming rain. But because we cling to form when form dissolves, we mistake it for an ending. In truth, only what we called mine fades. Life itself goes on. A meditator contemplating impermanence does not cling to any shape or identity, for they see clearly that all forms are temporary, like waves born of water. Seeing this, the mind becomes vast as the sky, light as the wind. Loss is no longer an ending, but a chapter in the soul's return to infinite life. In times of grief, people often ask, "Why me?" But from the Buddhist view, there is no true me that has been taken from. There are only causes and conditions shifting and returning to their rightful place in the endless flow of being. When someone departs, they do not vanish. They merge with the whole like a leaf, returning to the earth to nourish new green shoots. Look around, the universe moves in that same rhythm. The sun sets so that night may arise. The night fades so light may return. Autumn withdraws so that spring may bloom again. Inhalation cannot exist without exhalation. Every ending holds the seed of a beginning. This is the nature of impermanence. When we see this through the eye of wisdom, the heart grows lighter. We no longer cling to those who have gone, nor resent what has passed, nor fear time's touch upon our face. Instead, we learn gratitude for every moment, for each instant passing is also an act of returning. One who truly understands impermanence sees that in every parting hides a seed of reunion. In every tear, compassion begins to bloom, and in every death, another life quietly stirs. To practice seeing birth and death as one is not to give up, but to move with the current of life without resistance. Then we no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" but instead whisper, "Thank you for teaching me how to return to life, to mindfulness, and to gratitude blooming in every breath." Before falling asleep tonight, imagine yourself as an autumn leaf. As your body softens and breath slows, feel the wind gently lifting you, then carrying you down in peace. No resistance, No fear, only release. That feeling is not an ending, but a homecoming. Each breath in is birth. Each breath out is death. Yet through each rise and fall, life continues unbroken. You still exist, not as a fixed self, but as part of the living flow of the universe, moving within you. If your heart still carries grief or longing, place your hand over your chest and feel your heartbeat. It is proof that life still flows through you. Then whisper to yourself, everything is returning. This is not to forget, but to see clearly nothing is truly lost. The one you loved, the places you've been, the memories you held, all still continue, only in a different form. When the heart understands this, sleep is no longer a dimming, but a deep meditation. You no longer need to seek peace, for peace was never gone. It is here in the very moment you stop resisting impermanence. Peace has always been present, like the earth beneath the leaf, quietly receiving, never departing. Tonight, as you close your eyes, let your heart return like that leaf light, calm and pure. For in that surrender, you do not disappear. You simply return to your truest self, the deepest stillness where there is neither birth nor death. Autumn closes with the leaves returning, and winter begins with the silence of the soil. In that stillness, the meditator begins to see something new. It is not the falling leaves that disturb us, but the unseen winds that stir within our own hearts. We do not fear outer loss, but the storms that rise inside. The next Zen story, the storm and the lake, will take us deeper into that truth. When the wind stirs, the lake ripples. When the wind rests, the water reflects the moon. For mind and world have never been apart. The winds of life may never stop, but the winds within we can learn to still. When we understand that every loss is a form of return, we sometimes discover something deeper. What truly hurts us is not the loss itself, but the winds that rise within whenever life begins to change. There are days when nothing in particular happens, yet the heart still stirs. A passing word, a distracted glance, or an old memory returning. That alone can ripple the heart, like a lake touched by wind, sending out countless restless waves. Why is that? Why can a small disturbance outside shake an entire ocean within? And why, even when the outer winds have stopped, does the heart still not rest? These are questions not only for practitioners, but for anyone who has ever known suffering. No one can stop the winds of life, but perhaps we can learn how to keep the lake within from being ruled by them. That afternoon, the wind swept down from the mountains, rustling the trees around the lake. In a small Zen monastery by the water, a novice named Shin was dusting the Buddha statue. Each time the wind blew harder, the dust scattered again, and the lake water turned murky. He sighed. I keep cleaning, but the lake never stays clear. When will the water be pure again, Master? The Zen master sat quietly on the veranda, watching the ripples on the lake reflect the early moon. He spoke slowly, his voice deep as the fading wind. You cannot stop the wind, but you can wait for it to pass. That simple sentence opened a vast truth. Peace does not come from controlling the wind. It comes from sitting still long enough for the water to clear on its own. Autumn at the mountain monastery always carried an unusual stillness. The lake lay flat as a mirror, reflecting the clear sky and the shade of the great Bodhi tree. Every morning, Shin came to draw water, seeing his own reflection, young, calm, and still carrying his teacher's words. When your mind is still, you will see the sky within yourself. But that evening, winds suddenly rushed up from the valley, carrying cold air and dust. The once quiet lake churned violently, mud rising from the depths, fish leaping in panic. The peaceful scene turned into chaos. Shin ran to his teacher in alarm. "Master, the lake is full of waves." "What should I do to make it still again?" The teacher looked out and asked gently, "Can you stop the wind?" "No, master." "Then do not try to stop the waves. Wait." But waiting was not easy. The stronger the wind blew, the murkier the water became. Shin panicked. He tried to still the waves with a broom, aboard even his hands. Yet the more he struck the surface, the more the water stirred and the mud rose higher. Finally exhausted, he burst into tears. "I can't bear it anymore. How can this water ever be clear again?" The master came over, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said softly, "The wind is not created by the lake nor by you. Sit down. When the wind passes, the water will clear by itself." Shin sat down, watching Bodhi leaves float across the surface. Gradually, the wind weakened, the waves subsided. After a while, the water grew still again, perfectly mirroring the full moon rising above, bright, round, and silent. The master smiled and pointed toward the lake. "Do you see, Shin? When the wind stops, the water reflects the moon. So too, when your mind stops stirring, wisdom naturally shines." The novice bowed his head. A tear fell from his eye, sending a small ripple across the lake, but the moon's reflection remained undisturbed and bright. What seemed like a simple moment between teacher and student was in truth a vivid illustration of a profound Buddhist teaching. Mind and world are not two. When the mind moves, the world moves. When the mind is still, the world is still. The outer world, peaceful or chaotic, is only a reflection of the inner one. In this story, the Wintari symbolizes the influences of life, others' words, lingering memories, loss pressure, or unfulfilled expectations. The lake represents the mind. The unwind are our reactions: anger, fear, sorrow, anxiety. When the winds of life touch the mind, these waves rise, clouding its natural clarity. Many people believe that to find peace, they must calm the waves by forgetting, avoiding, or suppressing emotions. But the harder we try, the more we stir them, just like Shin, splashing the lake, making it murkier. True peace does not come from force, but from patience, from the willingness to sit quietly, observe, neither resisting nor following. When we stop struggling, the water clears on its own. That is the essence of our meditation. Not forcing the mind to be still, but allowing it to become still once we stop agitating it. The Buddha once said, "You do not need to destroy your thoughts. You only need not be carried away by them." When we observe without attachment, emotions dissolve naturally, like clouds fading from the sky. Modern neuroscience has confirmed this. Researchers have found that when people face negative emotions with acceptance and observation, The brain activates its emotional regulation, centers the anterior cingulate cortex, reducing stress far more effectively than suppression. In other words, the mind can heal itself if we allow it to settle as the lake returns to clarity after the wind passes. In life, we cannot stop the wind, for the wind is everything beyond our control, a harsh word, a misunderstanding, a breakup, or an unexpected loss. The wind will always blow in its own way, but we can learn to keep the lake within from being swept away. When someone says something that hurts us, our natural reaction is to ripple anger, sadness, the need to defend. But if we simply sit and observe, noticing the emotion arise, swell, and fade, we realize it is just like the wind coming and going, never staying long. Mindfulness is not escaping emotion nor suppressing it. It is seeing the full process of emotion arising, growing, and disappearing without interference. Like a person sitting by a lake quietly watching the water turn clear again, doing nothing at all. Psychologists call this the principle of natural regulation, self-regulation. The human mind can return to balance if given space, but most of us never give it rest. We react too quickly, speak before thinking, act before breathing. Those who practice meditation learn to pause not to avoid life, but to give the mind a chance to see itself. When the mind returns to its original stillness, untouched by the winds of anger, fear, or attachment, the moon of wisdom appears on its own. So, we do not need to avoid the wind. We only need to learn to stand calmly within it. We do not need to stop the waves, only to let them pass. And when the water clears, we see the one who once hurt us is now just a shadow of a lesson. The fear that once bound us has become a passing breeze. And through it all, the moon remains bright, serene, never gone. As night falls, try sitting quietly for a few minutes before sleep. Do not ask for anything. Do not chase away the thoughts that visit. Simply watch your mind where the winds of worry, regret, anger, or longing still blow. See them as one would watch clouds drift without grasping, without pushing away. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out slowly. Feel each breath as a small ripple dissolving into the vast ocean. Gradually, the breath steadies, and the mind begins to settle like a lake smoothing after the wind. In that moment, the moon of peace emerges, soft, faint, but deep. If thoughts rise again, do not fight them. Simply notice the wind is blowing. Then softly, the wind is passing. That is the entire meditation for the night. No resisting, no holding, just seeing and letting go. When the mind no longer chases the wind, sleep is no longer a weary surrender, but a return where body and mind merge into stillness. Nothing left to grasp, nothing left to forget. Only the gentle breath leading you home to the ancient dwelling of peace that has never left. Peace is not something to be found. It is already here waiting for you to stop stirring the water long enough to see it. And when you finally learn to look at the wind without trembling, to look at the water without clouding it, a deeper realization appears. Not only the wind, but everything. The people we love, the things we hold, the beliefs we call forever, all share the same impermanent nature. The world is always changing. It is the clinging heart that wants it to stay the same. and from that clinging suffering arises. An old Zen story tells of a potter who wept bitterly when his prized vase shattered. His master simply looked at him and said softly, "You love the vase, but the vase never loved you." Just one sentence, and the potter awakened, for attachment to form is the root of suffering. When we see the conditional nature of all things, that nothing belongs to us, that nothing lasts, we begin to let go gently, like a leaf releasing from its branch when autumn arrives. And in that letting go, true freedom finally blossoms. When we understand that we cannot stop the winds of life, only learn to quiet the winds, within another paradox reveals itself. The wind has stopped, yet the waves still echo. We say we have let go, and yet deep inside, a thin, invisible thread remains. Its name is regret. How many times have you tried to hold on to something, a person, an object, a memory so tightly that you forgot it was never truly yours? We cling to relationships, careers, and achievements as though they were inseparable from who we are. We fear losing fear, emptiness, fear the hollow silence left when everything departs. But have you ever paused to ask yourself, do I truly love this thing, or just the image of it I've built inside my mind? One summer noon at the monastery, sunlight spilled gold across the roof tiles, and smoke from the pottery kiln drifted behind a grove of bamboo. Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound broke the silence. The young monks in the courtyard froze, eyes turning toward the source. Only the old master remained still, his calm gaze fixed in that direction, where a young craftsman sat motionless, staring at the shattered pieces of pottery before him. In that moment, not only had the vase broken, an illusion had also fractured. Long ago, in a small village on the mountainside, there was a pottery kiln renowned throughout the region. The clay came from an ancient stream. The fire was fed by the valley wind, and the old potter was said to hear the breath of the earth. Among his disciples, Haru was the most gifted, diligent, sensitive, and able to feel the pulse of the clay as if it were alive. For years, Haru learned to sense the moisture of the soil, to read the flame by the color of its smoke, and to listen to the wind in the kiln to know when the heat was right. It was not merely a craft, it was a way of life, where shaping the clay also shaped the mind. After months of patience, he finally created a masterpiece. The villagers marveled. The body of the vase was perfectly balanced, its curves graceful, its blue glaze shimmering like moonlight on water. Haru was proud. He treated the vase as the treasure of his life. Each day he polished it, admired it for hours, and guarded it like a sacred relic. He feared dust scratches, even the touch of others. The vase slowly became both his greatest pride and his deepest fear. One afternoon, as Haru brought the vase into the courtyard to dry in the sun, a sudden gust of wind swept through. He hesitated for just a moment, his hand trembled, and then came the sharp, ringing sound of shattering like the sky itself had cracked. That dry echo pierced his heart like a merciless reminder from the universe. Haru stood frozen. His eyes followed the fragments scattered across the ground. He knelt, picking them up one by one, tears mixing with dust. His voice trembled. I worked for months, poured my whole heart into it. How could it all vanish in a single second? the old master approached. He did not speak right away. He simply looked at his student-kind eyes, yet piercingly clear. Then he said softly, like a breeze, "Haru, you loved the vase, but the vase never loved you." Haru looked up, stunned. The master continued slowly, as if reciting an ancient truth. "You think you've lost it, but in truth it has only returned to its original nature. Earth, ash, and wind. It never belonged to you, just as nothing in this life ever belongs to anyone. You merely sent your heart into its form and mistook that form for love." The master picked up a small shard and placed it gently in Haru's hand. "Look closely. This piece is still beautiful. If you look with an unbound heart, you'll see the whole vase is still here, only no longer in the shape you wanted. Its essence, the beauty, the grace, and your devotion remains untouched." Haru stared for a long time. In the sunlight, the shard glimmered with blue glaze, smooth and luminous, like water after rain. For the first time, he saw every curve, every layer of clay, every breath he had given it. A new wind passed, carrying away the dust. Haru smiled faintly, set the shard down, and bowed deeply to his teacher. Within him, another vase was born, the vase of understanding that beauty is not found in keeping things whole, but in knowing when to let go. From that day on, Haru never feared breakage again, for he had learned sometimes to break is only another form of being complete. The master's words, "You loved the vase, but the vase never loved you," were not comfort. They were the distilled essence of non-self and dependent origination. Everything in life, people, events, possessions, exists only through conditions. When those conditions dissolve, form changes. What causes our suffering is not the breaking of the vase, but the wish to keep it forever. The Buddha taught, whatever is born will perish. Whatever comes together will part. We do not suffer. Because of this law we suffer, because we refuse to accept it. When we love a person, an object, or an achievement, we are not only loving it, we are loving the feeling it gives us. And when it disappears, that feeling disappears too, and we think we have lost ourselves. But if we look deeper, we'll see that what we call loss is only transformation, like a wave returning to water, or earth becoming clay, and clay returning to ash. Zen Master Dogen once said, "The beauty of impermanence lies in having nothing to hold. It is through change that we glimpse the living truth of the universe. Everything flows, nothing stands still, and every breaking reveals a new form of existence." Modern psychology echoes this wisdom. According to Dr. Daniel Gilbert of Harvard University, people consistently overestimate the emotional impact of loss. When something we love disappears, we believe we'll suffer forever. Yet the mind has a remarkable ability to heal and rebalance, like a lake clearing itself after the wind, as long as we don't keep stirring it. The only condition for healing is not resistant reality. When we cling, we block life's natural flow, and in that moment of resistance to impermanence, suffering begins. In truth, we are all like the potter that day. Who among us has not wept over a broken love, a lost friend, a missed chance, or a ruined treasure? But if we stop and look deeper, we see it is not loss that hurts, but attachment. When we place love upon a form, we forget that the nature of love itself is non-possessive. When someone leaves, they do not take love away. They simply transform it. When something breaks, It does not erase the value of the time and care we gave it, merely returns us to the truth that everything is always changing. In every shattering life offers two paths: to cling and break with it, or to release and be reborn with it. If you have ever grieved something that is gone, pause as the master once told his student, look closely at the shard. It still carries the warmth of your hands, the trace of your care, the breath of life. Only its form has changed, its essence remains. Those who understand this live lightly. They know that every separation is a different kind of meeting. Every breaking is a lesson that softens the heart. And when the heart is soft enough, it no longer fears loss, because it knows nothing is truly lost, only quietly returning in another form. Before sleep tonight, let your mind become like the potter after the vase shattered empty-handed without regret. Sit still, breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly. Feel the breath move through your chest like a soft wind washing away the dust of the day. Close your eyes and think of something you are still holding on to, perhaps a fading memory, someone who has left, or a fear that lingers. Do not try to push it away. Simply look at it with gentle awareness, as if watching smoke dissolve into air. Then softly ask yourself, does this truly belong to me? If not, let it fade with each exhale. Just as a shard returns to earth, let everything in you return to where it began, to the stillness that has never left. As your breath grows light and slow, feel your body loosen soft, unresisting like soil after rain, moist and ready to receive new seeds of life. In that moment, sleep is no longer just rest. It becomes a homecoming, where body and mind are reborn in silence. There is nothing to hold, nothing to forget, only breath, gentle as the embrace of the earth cradling you back to peace. And when you truly release the broken vase, a quiet miracle appears. Nothing is ever lost. Everything is simply transforming. As earth becomes clay, clay becomes vase, becomes ash, and ash becomes cloud. Life never ends. It only changes form to continue its flow. The next Zen story will lead us deeper into this truth, where a single drop of water once feared dissolving into the sky, thinking it would vanish forever. But when it merged into the rain, it realized it had never disappeared, only lived on in another form, lighter, vaster, freer. In the circle of the Dharma, there is no birth, no death, only transformation, like the silent rhythm of the universe breathing through all things, from earth to vase to cloud and back again as rain. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered, where does a drop of water go when it dissolves into a cloud? Does it truly disappear, or does it simply continue to live in another form? Quieter, softer, freer. In life, human beings are much the same. We fear loss, fear, change, fear, endings. But often what we call loss is really a subtle transformation, like a drop of water merging into a cloud, only to return later as gentle rain. Nothing is truly lost. It only changes its name, its shape, and the way it exists. One early summer morning, when mist still covered the bamboo tops, a figure stood on the veranda of a mountain monastery overlooking the valley. Vapor rose from the lake like smoke. Each dewdrop melted into the sunlight, and it was as if the voice of the earth whispered, "Nothing ever truly disappears. Everything is simply returning home." And so begins the story of a little drop of water carrying within it a deeply human fear, the fear of vanishing. but its journey would reveal what the Buddha once illuminated with perfect wisdom. There is no birth, no death, only the unbroken continuation of life flowing through every breath, every drop of water, and every human being. Once upon a time, in the vast open sky, there was a tiny drop of water nestled inside a white cloud. It loved being there, cool, peaceful, safe, cradled like a child in its mother's arms. Each day it looked down at the world below, at mountains, rivers, and forests, and thought, "This place is so safe. I will stay with Mother forever." But one afternoon the wind began to stir. The cloud trembled. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The drop shivered and asked in a trembling voice, "Mother, what's happening?" The cloud smiled softly, her voice like a lullaby. "The rain is coming, my dear. You are about to become rain." The drop panicked. "Rain! But if I fall, I'll disappear. I won't be me anymore." The cloud replied, her voice warm and deep like a passing breeze. "My child, how could you ever disappear when you are water? Whether you are in the sky or on the ground, you are still, you only in a different form." But the drop was still afraid. It clung tightly to the cloud, unwilling to leave the familiar place it called home. It thought, "If I fall, I'll cease to exist." But the wind grew stronger, and then it fell. As it tumbled through the cold sky, the drop thought it was dying. Speed, emptiness, fear all rushed through it. Everything passed by like a shattered dream. Then in just a few seconds, it touched the earth and merged into a small stream running through the forest. The stream laughed with joy. "Welcome, little one. You are now part of me." The drop looked around bewildered, seeing thousands of other drops shimmering beside it. "But I can't see myself anymore," it whispered. The stream smiled. "You have never been lost. You are everywhere, in the current, in the bubbling sound, in the sunlight reflecting on the surface. You are alive, just in a way you've never known before." So the drop let itself flow. It slipped through rocks, across meadows, through the roots of trees that drank it in to nourish new life. It realized it was part of everything, inseparable from the great web of being. One day, as the sun rose, high vapor lifted from the stream, and the drop found itself rising once again into the sky. Before it knew it, it had returned to the cloud, the same cloud it once feared to leave. But this time, it was no longer afraid. It smiled softly, merging into the white mist, and understood. There had never been any real loss, only continuation. In this endless cycle of existence, there is no birth and no death, only different forms of the same reality, life itself. In the Buddha's teaching, the drop of water is a subtle symbol of both non-self anatta and impermanence anicca. Non-self because the drop has no fixed I. It can be dew cloud, rain river, or ocean. Impermanence because its form is always changing, flowing ceaselessly, like the breath of the cosmos. The Buddha taught, "This arises, therefore, that arises. This exists, therefore, that exists. This is dependent origination, the truth that nothing exists independently. The drop relies on the cloud relies on the wind, the rain relies on the earth relies on the life of grass trees and human beings. When one link changes, the entire circle trembles, and yet humans fear change. We identify ourselves with a form, a role, or a relationship. We ask, if I lose this job, who am I? Or if this person leaves, what value do I have? But like the drop of water, we only lose our form, never our essence. the self we try to protect is in truth a continuous stream of transformation. Our bodies change daily. Our thoughts and emotions shift every moment. Yet we cling to the illusion that we are the same person as before. It is this illusion, not impermanence itself, that causes suffering, because we keep trying to hold what cannot be held. In Zen, death is not the end, but a moment of transformation. The body returning to earth, water, air, and fire, the mind returning to awareness itself, like a drop of water dissolving into a cloud, not gone, only changing place to continue its journey. Modern psychology calls this the continuity of identity. Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "When I accept myself as ever changing, that is when I truly begin to live." The person who does not fear change is the one who understands the nature of existence. The story of the drop of water is not only about life, it is a profound lesson on how we face loss. When a loved one passes, when a relationship ends, or when a phase of life closes, we grieve because we believe they are gone. It is over. But through the eyes of mindfulness, we see that no one truly leaves. The one we love lives on in our breath, in our blood, in the warm memory still alive in the heart. A relationship may end, but gratitude remains, just as a cloud still holds moisture, even after the rain has fallen. Even today's pain is silently shaping us into more compassionate beings. Like the drop of water that feared falling, it thought falling meant death, but only through falling did it discover that within the fall lies life itself. So too, with us, only when we allow something to pass can something new enter. The Buddha taught impermanence is the doorway to freedom. When we stop clinging, we become free, like water, able to live and harmonize anywhere. Science now confirms this ancient wisdom. A study from Stanford University found that people who accept change, adapt to stress better, have stronger immune systems, and experience more lasting happiness. When the mind is calm, the body is calm, because energy is no longer wasted resisting what cannot be held. And in letting go, we do not lose ourselves. We return to ourselves light and free, like a drop of water returning to the ocean. When night falls, try a simple meditation called "The Drop Returns to the Cloud." Close your eyes and place your hand gently over your heart. Feel your heartbeat like the murmur of a small stream in a deep forest. Inhale slowly, imagining the breath as a cool breeze descending from the clouds. Exhale and feel your body soften light as a raindrop dissolving into the rain. Each breath is a circle of life, arising, passing, and arising again. Each thought is like a drifting cloud. No need to hold or push away. Just observe. Let the mind flow naturally, not resisting, not forcing. If something worries you, imagine it as a drop falling from the cloud, not lost, only returning to the vast ocean of your true nature. For only by daring to fall can the drop return home. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, remember, this is not the end of a day, but a new current of consciousness where you dissolve into the boundless ocean of life, no longer separate. Let each breath carry you back to that great ocean of peace, where every drop finds itself again. And when the drop realizes it has never truly disappeared, it smiles clear and bright as a mirror. But then a sound echoes from afar, the broken bell of an old temple, its cracked tone lingering between the mountains. Some say the bell has lost its purity. But the Zen master says that broken sound is the true voice of impermanence. The next Zen story will take us deeper into the place where even cracks become gateways to wisdom, for sometimes it is precisely through the break that the light enters. Have you ever heard the sound of a temple bell on a quiet afternoon and realized that some sounds, though no longer as clear as before, touch the heart more deeply? That cracked bell, though imperfect, carries a strange tone, both broken and whole, sorrowful and warm, just like life itself, never flawless yet profoundly true. Human beings carry a deep longing to remain whole, unchanging as we once were. We want love to never fade, youth to never age, family to never part, and success to never end. But life was never meant to stay that way. The beauty of a flower lies in its blooming and its fading. The beauty of the moon lies in its waxing and its waning. And the beauty of a person lies in their ability to look directly at their own cracks and still see within them a gentle light. In an ancient monastery nestled in a misty valley, there hung an old bronze bell that had rung for over 100 years. Long ago, its tone was pure as a mountain stream, but one stormy night, strong winds slammed it against the wooden frame, leaving a thin, deep crack like a wound that would never heal. From then on, whenever it was struck, the sound became hoarse and uneven. Some suggested replacing it, but the Zen master simply smiled and said softly, "There's no need. The broken sound you hear is the true voice of impermanence." And so, every evening when the bell rang, people no longer just heard a sound. They heard time, tenderness, and awakening itself, rising from the cracks of life. Once in an old temple on the mountainside, there was a young novice named Sora. Each dawn, while the valley still slept in mist, Sora was the first to step into the courtyard, gripping the cold bell rope. The bell's echo rippled across the valley, waking birds hidden in the trees and stirring the hearts of those waiting for a new beginning. But one morning, strong winds swept down from the mountains, shaking the temple roof. The rope loosened and the heavy bronze bell slammed hard against its frame. A long crack appeared across its body, thin, deep, like a scar etched into time. From that day on, whenever Sora struck the bell, its tone no longer carried far. It was low, rough, uneven, dull in some places, trembling in others. Sora grew sad. He stood for a long while under the eaves, staring at the damaged bell with a heavy heart. Finally, he went to see the abbot. "Master," he said, "the bell is broken. I think we should replace it." The Zen master looked up at the morning light filtering through the leaves and asked gently, "Did you hear the bell this morning?" "Yes, master, but it wasn't as clear as before." "And did you hear the wind moving through its sound?" "Yes." "The wind made it tremble." The master smiled. "Then the bell still speaks. It simply has a different voice." Sora was silent. The old master placed his wrinkled hand on the bell and said in a voice deep and kind, "People are the same. When young, the heart rings bright and clear, but after weathering storms, cracks appear within. And it is those very cracks that make the sound of our lives deeper, truer, and more human." That night, the air grew cold. Sora went back to the courtyard and gently struck the bell. Its tone did not travel far, but it breathed softly through the air, low, rough, trembling, yet strangely warm. In the stillness, Sora's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from understanding. Even in a broken sound, there is a wholeness of being. The bell's echo that night did not reach far into the valley, but it reached deeply into the heart, like the whisper of impermanence itself, imperfect, yet profoundly true. The cracked bell is a beautiful image of impermanence, one of the 3 marks of existence in Buddhism. The Buddha taught that everything born will perish and all forms will change. The beauty of the Dharma lies not in permanence, but in the awareness that arises when we face change without running away. When the bell was whole, its tone was bright and joyful. It brought calm to those who heard it. But when it cracked, its rough, uneven sound touched the heart more deeply. Those who do not understand may mourn its flaw. Those who understand impermanence smile because they recognize that the crack itself is truth ringing out. A Zen saying goes, "Impermanence is the music of life. Without impermanence, everything would be lifeless, like a stone statue. If leaves did not fall, how could spring return? If the moon never waned, how would we treasure the full moon night? And if the heart never cracked, how could light ever enter? Modern psychology calls this resilience, the ability to recover after being hurt. Humans may break, but they do not have to collapse. After every fall, if we can look deeply, the heart expands like a bell that still rings just in a different tone. When faced with loss, illness, or separation, we often ask, "Why me?" But in the depth of Buddhist wisdom, that question transforms into, "What is this trying to teach me?" For every crack is not a punishment, but an invitation to listen more closely to the sound of your own heart, deeper, truer, more alive. The story of the old bell is not just a metaphor, it mirrors every human journey. In life, each of us carries cracks in our bodies, our hearts, our memories. We've all lost someone, failed, made mistakes, been misunderstood. And instinctively, we try to hide our flaws, to pretend we're still whole. But the Buddha taught, when we see clearly that we are not perfect, that is when we begin to be complete. It's like the Japanese art of kintsugi, mending broken pottery with gold to show that where it broke is where the light is born. Beauty does not lie in perfection, but in the ability to accept and transform. In the same way, our wounds don't need to be erased, only seen with a peaceful heart. When resentment fades, wounds become wisdom, a soft light illuminating both the soul and the world. A study from Yale University found that people who have experienced loss and learned to accept it show 60% greater compassion than those who have not. Because those who have felt pain never wish to see others suffer as they did. Thus, suffering becomes the seed of compassion. Remember, a bell does not need to ring far to still be a bell, and you do not need to be perfect to be worthy of love. As long as your heart still rings, even softly, with truth and sincerity, that is enough. Before you fall asleep tonight, try a gentle meditation called listening to the cracked bell. You don't need a real bell. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine each breath as a quiet echo resounding within you. As you inhale, listen to the sound in your own heart, clear even if a bit rough. As you exhale, let that sound dissolve into the stillness of the night. If thoughts arise, don't push them away. See them as the bell's final reverberations, arriving, fading, needing no control. Then whisper softly within, though I am not whole, every part of me still adds music to the symphony of life. If you carry sadness, a wound, or something unresolved, let this inner sound soothe you. Because as the Zen masters once said, The broken sound is the true voice of impermanence. And impermanence, when seen through a calm mind, is not loss, it is the doorway to peace. Let your breath guide you into sleep, like a cracked bell still singing in the wind. You do not need to be flawless to be at peace. You only need to be here fully with every breath, every heartbeat, and the quiet tenderness of this very moment. The next morning, Sora stepped into the courtyard and saw a wildflower blooming beside the old bell. A gentle breeze stirred a few petals, loosened, and drifted away in the sunlight. In that moment, Sora remembered his master's words, "Without falling, there can be no blooming." The next Zen story tells of a student who wept as he watched petals fall until his teacher said, "It is because flowers fade that spring becomes precious." Impermanence is not the hand that takes away. It is the hand that opens, helping us see the beauty in every passing moment. For only when we understand that what we love cannot stay forever, do we truly learn how to look, how to touch, and how to be grateful for life, one fleeting breath at a time. Have you ever stood in a garden and watched a single petal fall, just one, and felt an ache in your heart as if you had just lost something precious? One fallen petal may seem insignificant, yet that moment still leaves you silent. You realize how fragile beauty truly is. Fragrance fades, colors wither, and every hand must eventually let go. After every separation, every change in life, we often sigh. If only it hadn't passed so quickly. But think about it. If flowers never wilted, would we know how to cherish the moment they bloom? If spring never left, would our hearts still thrill when it returns? For ages, people have tried to hold on to what they love to youth, to first love to smiles, to memories already closed. But the tighter we cling, the deeper the pain. Because like water in our hands, the harder we grasp, the faster it slips away. That spring morning near the end of the season, the garden behind the temple was bathed in soft, silken light. Plum blossoms drifted gently to the ground, blending with the early breeze. Under the tree, a young monk sat quietly, eyes following the falling petals, feeling a sadness he could not name. He softly asked his teacher master, "Why do such beautiful flowers fade so quickly?" The old Zen master was sweeping leaves in the courtyard. When he heard the question, he paused, lifting his gaze toward the student. Before them, the final petal floated down, touching the earth like the last breath of spring. "Did you hear the wind just now?" the master asked. "Yes," the student replied, "but I only saw the flowers fall. I didn't think of anything else." The master smiled gently. "Then you saw loss, but not where the wind was carrying them." The student looked up puzzled. The master continued softly, "If the flowers never fell, would you notice spring at all?" The question stopped him. The master's voice was calm like the wind. For it is precisely when the flowers fall that spring reveals itself. If blossoms never faded, you would no longer see the movement of life. The beauty of impermanence lies there where loss becomes continuation. The wind stirred again. A fallen petal lifted, spinning lightly in the air before landing on the nearby stream. The ripples shimmered, scattering silver light. The master said, "Look as that petal died." It has merely changed place, changed form, and continues its journey. The student stayed silent, watching. The petal floated downstream, disappearing into the valley's current. His sadness began to dissolve, replaced by a quiet lightness like a door opening within. The master spoke again, his voice like a breeze. Human life is the same. Each moment is a flower blooming, fading, transforming. Without fading, how could there be blooming? Without separation, how could there be meeting? Without endings, how could beginnings be known? The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. But impermanence is not to be feared. It is the natural breath of the universe. Because of impermanence, flowers bloom. The moon waxes and wanes. Humans are born and grow. If nothing ever changed, life would be a still pool, clear perhaps, but lifeless. When flowers bloom, conditions have gathered. When they fade, conditions disperse. Those who understand the Dharma smile at both welcoming arrival and bowing to departure. They know that within every falling petal lies the seed of the next season. An ancient Zen verse says, "Spring departs 100 flowers fall. Spring returns 100 flowers bloom. Life's affairs pass before our eyes as white hair gathers upon our heads." To those who do not understand the verse, sounds sad. But to the awakened, it is serene, because it speaks not of loss, but of continuity. There is nothing to cling to, nothing to flee from, only to witness with a mind free from attachment. Modern psychology calls this acceptance, the capacity to receive life as it is. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means seeing deeply into the value of each moment. Those who embrace impermanence recover faster from pain, live more peacefully, and find deeper joy. Because they know impermanence takes nothing away, it teaches us how to cherish what remains. We often grieve what has passed, yet rarely smile for what still is. We mourn those who left, forgetting to thank them for once being here. We lament the end of a season, unaware that sunlight still touches the new buds beginning to sprout. The Buddha once said, "When a flower fades, do not grieve. For in that very soil, a new seed is being born." Look deeply and you will see, loss is not an ending, but another form of creation. Each dissolution is the universe opening the door for renewal. A study from Harvard University found that people who practice mindfulness of change, observing impermanence in breath and scenery and emotions, manage stress 40% better than those who don't. Because when you understand impermanence, you no longer fear uncertainty. You stop fighting the current and begin to move with it. In daily life, try once to watch a flower fall without sadness. See that only through its fading do we perceive the tenderness of beauty. Only through death do we understand the worth of life. Only through parting do we learn unconditional love. Impermanence does not come to take away, it comes to remind you. Do not wait until something is gone to live fully in this moment. Tonight before sleep, try a gentle practice light as a breath. Sit quietly. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Imagine a flower within your heart. With each in-breath, it blooms full and pure. With each out-breath, a petal falls silent, effortless. just observe. Do not grieve its fall, because in that very instant, new space is born just as in your mind. When a thought dissolves, stillness arises. Nothing is lost. Everything is transforming. If you are holding sorrow, a person, a memory, a dream unfinished, release it into the wind of your mind. Whisper softly, "Thank you for coming. Now go in peace." Then let the breath carry it away as the wind carries falling petals. When you lie down, feel your body breathe with the night. The sound of wind, insects, the quiet of darkness all become the music of letting go. Let your heart be a garden where things come and go naturally, like seasons following seasons, like night following day. Sleep will then no longer be mere rest, but a dwelling in the wisdom of impermanence, where you stop resisting life, stop clinging to anything. You become as light as a petal in the wind, realizing there is nothing to keep. Everything comes, everything goes, and within that flow, you are born again and again. The next morning, the young student walked into the garden once more. The flowers had fallen, only tender leaves swayed in the breeze. But on the pond nearby, the reflection of last night's moon still lingered, faint yet present. He looked into the still water and asked softly, "Master, where is the real moon, in the sky or in the water?" The Zen master smiled, eyes gentle as dawn mist. "It is where you stop looking down." The answer stunned the student. Something profound quietly unfolded, that the moon is never somewhere else but within the way we see. When the heart is disturbed, the moon breaks into fragments. When the heart is still, moon and water are one. The next Zen story will take us deeper into that understanding, where we realize that not only flowers and wind, but also illusion and reality are but two faces of the same flowing mind. When the heart is clear, all things reflect themselves within it. Tonight, the moon is full and silent. Its silver light spreads across the temple courtyard, falling onto the still surface of the pond like a sheet of glass. A soft breeze ripples the water, shattering the moon's reflection into 1,000 shimmering fragments. Just for an instant, but in that instant, you can glimpse the paradox of human life. We spend our whole lives searching for truth outside ourselves, forgetting it has always been quietly resting within. Since ancient times, human beings have been caught between two worlds, real and illusory. We look at things through a restless mind and assume that what we see is reality. We see the moon reflected in water and believe there are two moons. We see ourselves as separate from others, from life, from the way. And from that illusion arises comparison, fear, and suffering. But is there truly a second moon? Or is there only one multiplied by the mind that is not yet stilled? When the mind is like rippling water, even a perfect moon appears distorted. When the mind is calm reflection, and moon are not two. This Zen story begins on such a moonlit night in a monastery deep within the forest, when a young student eager to find the truth asked his master a question that seemed simple, yet opened a door to enlightenment. "Master, Where is the real moon? That night, the monastery lay still under a radiant full moon. Silver light blanketed the courtyard, filtered through the bamboo leaves and mirrored upon the quiet pond. A gentle night wind stirred, breaking the moon's image into glittering pieces. Beside the pond, a young monk sat watching the trembling reflection, his heart filled with unspoken questions. Is the moon in the sky or in the water? He wondered. Which is real and which is illusion? Just then, the old Zen master approached and sat beside him, gazing at the pond. His voice was deep yet warm. What are you looking at, my child? The moon, master. Which moon? The real one, master. He replied quickly, certain of his answer. The master smiled faintly. If it is the real moon, why does it break when the wind stirs? If it is the real moon, why does it vanish when you disturb the water? The question froze the young monk. The wind blew again. The water rippled, and the moon's reflection scattered into fragments of light. In that moment, he saw clearly what he had been staring at was merely a reflection, not the real moon. The master spoke gently. You are seeking truth, yet all you see is its reflection upon an unsettled mind. When your mind is disturbed, even truth becomes distorted. You believe there are two moons, one in the sky, one in the water. But there is only one. When the water is still moon and water are one, the student lifted his gaze. The moon above remained full, radiant, unmoving. He looked back down, the reflection still glimmered even with the ripples. He suddenly understood it was not the moon that moved, but his mind. From that night on, whenever he meditated, he no longer tried to drive away his thoughts. He allowed his mind to be like the pond, not forced to be still, simply letting the wind pass. And when the wind passed, the moon returned. The master looked at him kindly, eyes soft as moonlight. You do not need to search for the moon in the sky. Just stop looking down. In the silent night, bamboo leaves rustled. Moonlight bathed the garden. The moon had never left, only waited for the mind to become quiet enough to see it. The question, where is the real moon, may sound naive, but it reaches to the root of Buddhist teaching, non-self, anatta, and interdependence, pratyasamutpada. In Zen, the moon represents the true mind, luminous, pure, ever-present within each of us. The water represents the ordinary mind, constantly stirred, reflecting everything, but never completely clear. When the water is murky, the moon cannot appear. When the water is still, the moon shines naturally. So it is with the human heart. When the mind is full of thoughts and desires, we see life through waves of fear, craving, and attachment. We believe others hurt us, that the world is unfair, that happiness must be found outside. But what we see is only the reflection of an unsettled heart. The Buddha taught, when the mind is pure, the world is pure. The world does not need to change, only our seeing does. Like the moon on the water, when the mind is still, the moon appears. When the mind is restless, the moon seems to shatter. Yet the true moon has never been lost, only hidden beneath the ripples of delusion. Modern psychology calls this projection. When we are anxious, the world feels unsafe. When we are suspicious, everyone seems untrustworthy. When we are afraid, everything looks like a threat. Reality itself does not change our mind, simply colors what we see. Thus, the mind is not what looks, but the one who is looking. If that observer is restless even under the brightest moon, he will see only his own shadow. We often complain, why is life unfair? Why do people hurt me? Why is peace so hard to find? But through the lens of the Dharma, life is not unfair. People are not cruel, and peace is never far. We are simply looking through trembling water. When the mind ripples, every image distorts. When it calms, everything returns to its true form. When someone says something that hurts you, that pain is merely a wave on the pond. If you react anger for anger, you only stir the water more. But if you stay silent, breathe and observe, the waves will subside. The water will clear, and you will see the moon again, the truth that was there all along. Likewise, when you look at others, do not stop at their actions. Look deeper into the suffering that drives them. When you understand the cause of their pain, you stop blaming and start to see. From that seeing, compassion arises. For only those who see through illusion can love truthfully. Buddhism does not teach us to withdraw from life, but to see life through a mind no longer disturbed. Peace is not when everything goes well, but when amid chaos, your mind remains as bright as the moon behind the clouds. According to research from the Mind and Life Institute, people who practice mindful awareness observation without reaction show up to a 40% reduction in physiological stress. Activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, decreases significantly. When the mind is calm, the body and the brain naturally find freedom. So instead of trying to control everything, practice looking at the moon in the sky, not its reflection in the water. Let life reflect itself without grasping, without resisting. When your mind becomes like a still pond, the moon will appear by itself. And in that moment, you will realize peace was never gone. It was only waiting for you to stop stirring the water. Before sleep tonight, try a gentle meditation. The moon practice. Sit quietly somewhere calm. Relax your body. Release the tension from your shoulders, neck, and face. Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply and exhale slowly. Imagine a still pond within your heart. Upon it, a full moon is shining. Do not try to still the water, nor hold the reflection. Simply sit and watch. If a thought arises, I'm tired, what will happen tomorrow? Do not chase it away. See it as a small ripple on the pond. The ripple comes, then fades. When you do not react, the wave dissolves on its own. And when the waves fade, the moon shines again without effort. Feel each exhale as a gentle breeze passing over the water, and each inhale as moonlight softly descending into the pond. Gradually, you will feel a subtle light spreading within, not from outside, but from awareness itself. Let yourself fall asleep in that luminous stillness, where dreams are light as mist, and every worry dissolves like moonlight on water. When the mind is still, the moon shines naturally, and in that moment, you will see peace was never gone. It was only waiting to be welcomed home. The next morning, the student returned to the pond. The surface was clear as glass. The moon of last night had set. Only the faint sound of waves echoed from afar. He stood silently gazing toward the sea and realized even when the water is calm, there are still waves. Only now they no longer fight themselves. He turned to his master and asked, "Master, are waves and water two different things?" The master smiled, eyes deep as the ocean. "The wave fears it will vanish when it meets the shore, but the sea whispers, 'You have never been apart from me.'" In that instant, the student understood a wave is nothing but the temporary form of water, just as we are the passing expression of life itself. The next Zen story will lead you deeper into the truth of non-self, where you realize you have never been separate from the vast ocean of existence. And when you see that you are the sea, all fear dissolves like foam under the morning sun. Have you ever been afraid of disappearing? Afraid of losing what you have, a relationship, a role, an image, or even your very sense of self? No matter how strong we are, each of us carries that fear. We fear being forgotten, fear becoming meaningless, fear that one day everything we've tried so hard to protect will dissolve into nothingness, as if it never existed. But have you ever asked yourself, where does disappearance really go? And this self we're so desperate to preserve, does it truly exist as something separate from everything else? In meditation, there is a gentle yet profound image, the wave in the ocean. A wave rises from the sea, swells, crashes onto the shore, and fades away. People say the wave is gone. But the ocean is not gone. The ocean continues to breathe, to shift its form, to sustain its endless rhythm of life. In the same way, when a loved one departs, when a dream ends, or when a chapter of life closes, we often whisper, "It's over." Yet if we look deeper, we'll see only the form has changed. The essence remains. That which lives and moves through all things has never disappeared. The story that follows is about a small wave afraid of vanishing as it nears the shore, and the ocean, through its silent truth, will answer that fear. It is a story of realizing that disappearance is not loss, but return. Across the vast sea, a small wave was born. It danced joyfully in the morning sun, playing with the wind, proud to rise higher than the others. From its crest it could see the wide world, the radiant sunlight, the soaring birds, the glittering expanse of blue like 1,000 jewels. It felt alive, unique, complete. But after many days of wandering, the little wave began to notice something heavy in its heart. Far ahead lay a white shoreline, and every wave before it, big or small, upon reaching that shore, vanished without a trace. Watching this, fear rose within it. If I reach there, it thought, I'll be gone. I'll no longer be myself. I'll die. The fear grew like a headwind, making the little wave tremble. It tried to turn back toward the open sea, but the current carried it forward, strong, unstoppable. Seeing this, a larger wave beside it smiled gently. "Why so sad, little one?" The small wave replied, trembling. "Don't you see, we're all heading toward that shore. Every wave that gets there disappears. None ever returns. I'm about to cease to exist." The big wave looked kindly at it and asked softly, "Who do you think you are?" "I'm a wave. Of course I have shape, foam, and motion of my own." The big wave shook its head slowly. "No, you are not just a wave. You are water." The small wave froze, confused. The larger one continued, its voice deep and calm like the ocean itself. You think you're separate from the sea, but you have never left it. When you rise, you are the ocean in the form of a wave. When you fall, you are still the ocean. Your form changes, but your essence never dies. The great sea around them seemed to hum in agreement, as if affirming the truth of those words. The little wave fell silent. For the first time, it felt the connection between itself and the vast sea more deeply than ever before. It looked around countless waves, tall or small, young or old, all made of the same water, all moving in one shared breath. A quiet peace spread within it. It smiled, realizing that its fear of vanishing was just another tiny wave already rising, already gone. When it finally reached the shore, it no longer panicked. It merged back into the sea gently, willingly, no longer clinging to its form. It understood that it had never truly disappeared, only returned to its boundless source where every wave is born, and every ending is simply the ocean breathing. The story of the wave and the sea is a delicate metaphor for the teaching of non-self, anatta, one of the three core marks of Buddhist wisdom. Non-self does not mean we do not exist, but that we do not exist as isolated, independent entities. Just as a wave cannot be separate from the ocean, every life in this universe is sustained by the same stream of being. When we say, "I am myself within," that I are countless elements that are not us, the breath from trees, the water from clouds, the sunlight from the sky, the oxygen from the ocean, and the love teachings and kindness of those who have touched our lives. Without all of these, that I could not exist. Thus, the Buddha taught. This arises because that arises. This exists because that exists. That is the principle of interdependent origination, the foundation of Buddhist understanding. Yet in daily life, we often forget this. We place ourselves at the center, believing that control will bring peace. From that illusion come fear of loss, fear of change, and fear of being forgotten. But all fear is born from the false idea of a separate self. When we realize that we have never left the great flow of life, that we others and the world are but different expressions of the same oceanic mind, fear dissolves like foam upon the waves. Modern psychology calls this ego dissolution. When the brain's self-identifying regions quiet down, a person experiences profound peace, a sense of unity with all things free from fear and isolation. That is the non-self mind of meditation, where there is no longer separation between self and other gain and loss. Just as the wave, upon knowing it is water, no longer fears fading away, it realizes it was never apart from the ocean to begin with. In life, each of us meets our own shorelines, moments when everything seems to end, a broken relationship, a job we must leave, a youth that has passed, a loved one who is gone. We call these losses. But if we look deeper, nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is transforming from one form into another. Those we love who have departed still live in our breath, in our voice, in our habits, in the seeds of love they planted in our hearts. A memory thought long faded quietly continues in how we see life, in how we care for others. Even a mistake that once haunted us becomes the foundation for living more humbly and kindly. Everything continues, wave after wave, no boundary between old and new. What we call an ending is simply another breath in the rhythm of life. With the wisdom of non-self, we see there is no loss, only transformation. When we let go of the small, we merge with the greater life that holds us all. When we stop dividing, we see others as ourselves in another form. And when we stop fearing, we truly begin to live. Modern science is slowly touching what the Buddha saw over 2 millennia ago. Neuroscientists have found that during deep meditation, the brain's default mode network, the part that constructs the sense of self, becomes quiet. The meditator no longer feels like an isolated individual. They do not disappear, but merge with the whole, feeling deeply connected to all life around them. That is the experience of non-self. Not loss, but union. It cannot be fully expressed in words. It can only be lived in the stillness of awareness. The Buddha called this nirvana in daily life, a state where we still breathe, still love, still walk among others, but no longer feel separate from the ocean of being. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself as a small wave upon the vast ocean. Feel your breath moving you. Each inhale, a wave rising. Each exhale, a wave dissolving softly into the sea. Do not resist the dissolving. It is not an ending, but a return. Do not cling to the rising. It is but a passing rhythm of life breathing with you. Let your breath become the natural tide that carries you home to the great ocean, the place you have never truly left. Even if you feel lost, hurt, or empty today, remember you have never been alone. Just as a wave cannot leave the ocean, you can never fall outside the embrace of life itself. Every sorrow, every loneliness, every fear is but a passing ripple upon the surface. Beneath it all, there is always the still sea, the place your heart belongs. Rest in that knowing. Feel the invisible support of the ocean of the universe, of the gentle forces that hold you even now. When you realize you are the sea itself, fear disappears, and when fear is gone, sleep becomes tender, like a breeze gliding over calm water. Dreams drift like bubbles rising, fading, leaving behind pure serenity, like the first light of dawn, glittering over the endless sea. The next morning, as mist still veils the river, an old ferryman prepares for his first journey of the day. Same river, same path yet. Each time his oar touches the water, the current is different, sometimes still, sometimes cloudy, never the same. The flow is always changing. A young monk asks his teacher, "Master, the ferryman crosses the same river every day. Why do you teach that no one can step into the same river twice?" The master smiles, his eyes reflecting the flowing stream. Because the water is always moving, and so is life. No moment ever repeats. Each day may seem the same, but in truth, everything is transforming with every breath. No two moments are ever alike. The next Zen story will take us deeper still to the realization that the past cannot be held. The future has never yet arrived, and only awareness allows us to live fully in this present moment, where the river of life continues to flow, and every drop of water is a brand new miracle. Have you ever noticed that you still walk the same old roads, see the same familiar faces, live in the same house, and yet everything feels strangely different inside? Everything seems to be there, but it's not the same. The scenery changes, people change, and you too, are no longer who you were yesterday. Life, if you look closely, is like a river that never stops flowing. Yet most of us keep trying to hold on to a beautiful memory, a person we once loved, or a glorious time long gone. We try to grasp the past as if we could hold water in our hands, but the tighter we grip, the faster it slips away. Why do we suffer when things change? Perhaps because we haven't truly understood that impermanence is not loss. It's the sign that life is still moving. Like the breath, only when it keeps flowing in and out do we remain alive. An old Zen story tells of a boatman. Each day he rowed across the same river. Yet when someone asked him about it, he smiled and said, "I have never crossed the same water twice." It sounds like a paradox, but it carries deep wisdom. Every moment of life is new, never to be repeated. If we learn to see the new within what seems old, we will understand that every moment is a beginning, and within it life continues to whisper, gentle, fresh, and endless. Morning mist covers the river like a thin silk veil. The water lies still reflecting the soft pink sky of dawn. The sound of oars dipping into water echoes like the breath of time, slow, steady, and deep. The old boatman has rowed this river for over 30 years. He has carried many across the two banks, the hurried, the thoughtful, the laughing, and the tearful. Everyone believes it's the same familiar river, but only he knows the water is never the same as yesterday. One evening, as the sun sank behind the bamboo grove, a young monk came to the river bank. He sat by the water, watching the slow current, and asked boatmen, "You travel this river every day. You must know every rock and every bend right." The old man smiled kindly. "I know the way," he said, "but the water is never old. Each day I meet a new river." The young monk was puzzled. "But isn't it the same river?" The boatman rested his oar, gazing into the distance. "You think it's one, but the water flows on. Not a single drop returns. Just like you. The one who asked me and the one who's hearing my answer now. They are not the same." The monk fell silent. He watched the stream flow, the ripples linking endlessly into the horizon. In that moment, he felt as if time itself was flowing through him. The boatman spoke softly. "I used to fear time, fear aging, fear losing things. But then I understood the river must flow so it can live. If it stopped, it would die. Life is the same, only through change does it stay alive." The boat kept drifting. The wind brushed the surface, and the gentle waves lapped against the hull. The old man continued, his voice blending with the rhythm of the water. "I once thought I was the one ferrying people across, but truly, it's the river that's been carrying me all along. Each crossing I'm different. Each time I look back, the river is different. Only when I saw this did I understand the miracle of impermanence." The monk bowed his head. Something inside him loosened the old desires, the regrets, the attachments to his own image. When the boat reached the other shore, the boatman laid down his oar and said gently, "You may return tomorrow, but you will never be the same as you are today. And this river will no longer be the same either." The water kept flowing. The sunset shimmered on its surface like time's tender farewell. In that stillness, the monk realized everything is passing, yet nothing is ever truly lost. The simple story of the boatman and the river is a beautiful illustration of the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, one of the three marks of existence: impermanence, non-self, and suffering. Impermanence is not a tragedy. It's the heartbeat of life itself. If flowers did not wither, how could new ones bloom? If the day did not end, how could we see the night? If people never changed, how could we ever learn to love more deeply and understand ourselves more clearly? Our suffering doesn't come from change, but from our refusal to accept it. We want to keep what makes us happy and push away what causes pain. But life doesn't follow our wishes. It flows according to causes and conditions, the natural law of the universe. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. Strive with diligence, do not be careless. He did not say this to make us fearful or pessimistic, but to awaken us. Because everything is fragile, every moment becomes infinitely precious. From a Zen perspective, impermanence is not something to grieve. It is the teacher of awakening. When we truly see the continuous movement of life, we stop being trapped by the past or afraid of the future. We return to the present, where life is truly breathing and unfolding. In modern psychology, this is called mindfulness. A Harvard study found that when people's minds wander into the past or the imagined future, their happiness decreases sharply. But when they are fully present, simply drinking tea, breathing, or walking, they experience a deep sense of peace, because in that moment they are truly alive, not remembering, not waiting. You cannot step into the same river twice, nor can you live the same day twice. Everything familiar is changing, moment by moment. The child within you has grown. The person you love has changed, and you yourself are no longer the same. Yet how many times have we let the present slip away because our hearts are still stuck in what's gone? Someone once asked, "How can I keep happiness forever?" The answer is, don't keep it. Happiness, like water, only lives when it flows. When you try to hold it, it becomes stagnant. The boatman does not suffer because the water flows. He knows that every crossing is a new meeting with new people, new waves, new winds. He doesn't try to hold on to moments. He simply moves with the current. If we live like that, welcoming everything as if for the first time, not comparing with yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, every moment becomes clear and vibrant. That is the art of mindful living, not by withdrawing from the world or hiding in the mountains, but by being truly present in each small thing: a cup of tea, a breath, a gaze. When the mind no longer wanders the world before you, is always new, just as the boatman meets a new river every day, though he stands at the same shore. Modern science affirms this too. A Stanford study found that the human brain seeks familiarity for safety, but that very familiarity dulls the aliveness of the present. Mindfulness frees us from that unconscious loop, helping us see that even while washing dishes, walking, or simply breathing, life is constantly renewing itself every second. Before you go to sleep tonight, try something simple, a moment of returning to yourself. Sit quietly for a few minutes, close your eyes, and just listen to your breath. Each inhale is a new stream passing through. Each exhale is another. No breath is ever the same. just as no moment of life is ever repeated. You are living within your own river, always flowing, always new, always changing silently, sustaining everything. Let today drift away as gently as a boatman setting down his oar after the crossing. Don't carry anger, regret, or unfinished expectations. They are only passing ripples. When you release them, the water calms and the moon, the peaceful mind, naturally appears. Sleep is not the shutting down of consciousness, but rest within understanding. Even in dreams the river flows. Life continues to embrace you softly, steadily, asking nothing but that you allow yourself to rest. To sleep mindfully is to know that you are changing and to accept it as part of the natural flow. No resistance, no clinging, just drifting like water, quietly returning to the sea. That is meditation in the night, where impermanence is no longer something to fear, but a gentle lullaby for the heart, reminding you that every ending is simply another form of continuation. The next morning, in a small studio nestled by the mountainside, a young painter sat before a canvas he had been working on for months. Morning light streamed through the window, glimmering on layers of overlapping color. He studied every detail, adding a stroke here, erasing another there. Each time he thought it was finished, something still felt incomplete. The more he tried to perfect it, the more lost he became in his own creation. One afternoon, a Zen master from a nearby monastery stopped by. He looked at the painting quietly for a long time and said softly, "When you stop trying to fix it, it will be complete." The painter froze. In that instant, he realized his endless effort to perfect the painting had blinded him to its natural beauty and to his own. The river cannot stand still to become perfect. If it stops flowing, it dies. Life is the same. It is only whole when we allow it to be as it is, instead of chasing what it should be. And that is the essence of the next Zen story, the art of letting go on the path of perfection. In life, human beings always carry a quiet longing, the desire to be perfect. We want our work to be perfect, our relationships to be perfect, and even ourselves to be perfect. We want everything to be right, beautiful, complete. But the harder we try to reach that perfection, the more exhausted we become. Have you ever noticed suffering doesn't come from life's imperfections, but from our refusal to let it be imperfect? We keep fixing ourselves, fixing others, fixing even the things that were never meant to be changed. Each time we think just a little more, and I'll feel at peace, our mind becomes even more tangled. Meanwhile, the Buddha taught, when the mind stops, wisdom arises. Like water, only when it's still can it reflect the moon. Yet we keep stirring it, believing we are not enough, that everything still needs one more correction. After the story of the boatman who discovered impermanence in the flowing river today, we step into another journey. The unfinished painting. In it, a young painter spends half his life trying to complete a masterpiece, only to realize that perfection is not found in adding more, but in the moment he dares to stop, when his hand puts down the brush and his heart allows itself to rest. On a mist-covered mountainside among quiet pine forests stood a small Zen monastery that seemed to touch the clouds. Each spring, plum blossoms bloomed white around the veranda, falling softly on the mossy stone steps, covering them with a pure, almost heartbreaking beauty. Mountain winds carried the scent of flowers, mingling with the faint sound of a distant bell, creating a silence that was both visible and invisible, the kind that makes one pause and listen inwardly. In a small room behind the courtyard lived a young painter who'd been in seclusion for years. Day after day, he sat before an old wooden easel, mixing colors, placing brush strokes, then erasing them. He had come to the monastery with one desire to complete the painting of his life, a painting he believed, when perfected, would reveal the ultimate truth of beauty. He thought that once finished, it would become a work of art that touched the stillness of the spiritual realm. Spring came and went. Leaves fell from the eaves, snow covered the roof tiles. With every passing season, his hair grew longer, yet the painting remained unfinished. Visitors who came by were amazed, saying it was already extraordinary fluid colors, lively strokes light that seemed to have a soul. But to him, there was always something not enough. A light too faint, a line too sharp, a feeling not yet touching the heart of beauty. He believed that if he could fix just a little more, just one more touch, it would become the perfect work he dreamed of. But the more he corrected, the further it slipped away. Each added stroke pulled him farther from the original beauty, the simplicity, purity, and life that once moved him. One autumn afternoon, the abbot of the monastery came to his room. The master stood silently before the canvas for a long while. On the cloth was a mountain hidden in mist, a thin stream flowing through pine trees, and a small bird flying toward the light in the distance. The room was completely still, only the sound of the wind through the window. The master asked softly, "How long have you been painting this?" The artist replied wearily, "More than 10 years, master." "And when do you think it will be finished?" He hesitated. "I don't know. Every time I look at it, I still see something to fix." The Zen master smiled gently, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said in a calm voice like mountain wind, "When you stop fixing it, it will be complete." The words fell into his heart, like the sound of a temple bell through the mist. He stood in silence for a long time, then turned to look at the painting, seeing not only mountains and clouds, but the story of his own life. Drops of sweat, long nights of solitude, dawns when he listened to the wind through the forest, and the faint longing for perfection. At that moment, he understood the painting never needed to be perfect, because the act of painting itself was already perfect. Every incomplete line was a breath of time, every uneven color, a mark of life. He put down his brush and bowed deeply. The canvas on the easel was still unfinished, but a strange peace spread through his heart. He saw clearly that the painting was truly complete, not on the canvas, but within him. Outside, the mountain wind blew again. The last plum petal fell and touched the misty stone step. And in that instant, the painter smiled for the first time in 10 years. He looked at his painting and felt no urge to change a thing. The master's words, "When you stop fixing it, it is complete," were not only about art, but a profound metaphor for the human mind. In the Buddha's teaching, all suffering arises from attachment to results to form to the idea of, I must be this way, that I always wants more to be better to be recognized. But the more it wants, the more it is bound, losing its freedom. Like the painter, each of us holds an invisible brush, constantly painting the picture of our own life. We want it to be perfect, right, beautiful, admired by others. But the more we add, the more we cover up the original beauty that was already there. True beauty does not come from decoration, but from full presence in each stroke. Zen teaches, doing nothing extra is the deepest act. True beauty doesn't need to be polished, it only needs to be seen. When we stop seeking, stop comparing, stop forcing ourselves to become someone else, the mind becomes as still as a lake, and only then does the moon appear. Modern psychology calls this toxic perfectionism, the state where a person never feels enough, always living in a better version of the future, while forgetting the present. Studies show that those caught in this cycle often feel tired, anxious, and rarely happy, no matter how much they achieve. Why? Because they live in a not yet enough future instead of the being now present. Zen teaches us to let go of becoming and return to being. A painting doesn't need to be finished to be beautiful. It only needs to be seen with clear eyes, without judgment, without correction, without addition. When we stop fixing, that moment itself is fulfillment. Each of us has our own unfinished paintings in life. An incomplete relationship, an unfulfilled dream, or simply the feeling that I'm still not good enough. So we keep fixing our words, our memories, even the image others have of us. But the more we fix, the further we drift from the truth. Life doesn't need to be perfect to be worth living. It only needs to be lived fully. The Buddha once said, "No one can walk using another's feet." Each person is a painting of their own, colored by karma, by conditions, by their unique journey. When we learn to see beauty in what is unfinished, our hearts open wider. Instead of resenting what's missing, we begin to feel grateful for what is. If you are tired of always trying to become someone better, smarter, more perfect, try pausing for a while. Not to give up, but to see how far you've already come. Sometimes that pause itself is where we realize our painting was never incomplete. It has been painted every day with breath, with experience, with love. Researchers at Stanford University found that when people accept themselves as they are, instead of constantly trying to fix everything, the brain releases serotonin, the neurotransmitter that creates peace and contentment. So lasting happiness doesn't come from perfection, but from the gentle acceptance that we are already enough. And in that enoughness, life becomes whole, even while unfinished. Before sleeping tonight, you can try a small practice, light as breath, yet enough to soothe an entire day. Sit quietly or lie down comfortably and let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. Close your eyes and look back at your day without judgment, without analysis, without comparison. Don't think I wasn't good enough, or I must do better tomorrow. Just whisper silently, inside today, I lived with all my heart. And that is enough. Then take a deep breath, feeling the cool air entering, like a new brush stroke on the painting of your life. Exhale, as if putting the brush down, allowing everything to rest just where it is. Nothing more is needed. everything that happened today, joy, sorrow, or disappointment, are all colors adding to your painting. And that painting, though unfinished, is alive, breathing, continuing to be painted with every breath you take. When you stop fixing, the mind settles, and sleep comes softly like the night wind brushing across a still lake. Let tonight's sleep be a gentle silence, where you see the beauty of the present painting, imperfect, yet true, complete, and already enough. At dawn in the monastery, mist drifted like thin smoke. The great bell sounded, echoing through the still forest. On the veranda, the old Zen master sat upright, his back straight, his eyes calm and bright like a fading moon. Around him, the disciples knelt in silence, knowing the moment of his passing had come. One wept quietly, another prayed, another bowed low without daring to look. But the master only smiled gently. He spoke softly, his voice light as wind. I am only changing into a new robe. Then his final breath slipped away, peaceful as a leaf falling in the morning breeze. No cries, no fear, only deep, pure stillness filled the air. The story, the last breath, opens another door. It speaks of death as continuation of the body, as a temporary robe, and of the unborn mind that never disappears. The enlightened do not leave, they return. Like breath, dissolving into space, still part of life itself. And we understand, when we see the completeness in each breath, death too is only a longer breath within infinity. Perhaps among all human fears, the deepest is the fear of death. We may accept losing money, losing status, losing people. But when we think of the final breath, that moment, when we must let go of everything, even this body, our heart tightens. Because we believe death is the end, the disappearance into nothingness. But is it really so? In life, we have witnessed countless deaths without calling them by that name. When autumn leaves fall, we think the tree has died, yet in spring new leaves appear. Each evening the sun sets, and we think the light is gone, but the next morning it rises again, simply in another place on the turning earth. If we truly see this, we realize death is not the end, but the transformation of life. Like the painter's story in the previous tale, when he stopped fixing the painting, became complete. Death is the same when we stop trying to fix our life. When we let go, this journey closes only to open another door. In the Buddha's teaching, death is not loss, but a change of robes. This body is only temporary, while the mind, like a river, continues to flow. The enlightened do not leave in fear. They smile as travelers changing their resting place, calm, gentle, and free. And the next Zen story tells of such a master, one who smiled at death, changing his old robe to begin a new journey with his final breath still filled with light. Morning in the monastery. White mist covered the mountains so thick that it seemed the world itself was breathing silence. Birdsong echoed faintly across the valley, mingling with the wind through bamboo groves like a farewell song no one dared to name. Incense smoke rose from the Buddha hall, thin and pale, like the mist slowly dissolving into the air. Everything was peaceful as always, except that today, within that peace, there was something deeper, quieter, as if the earth and sky themselves were waiting for a sacred moment. In a small room behind the bamboo garden, The old Zen master rested his head on a worn pillow. His face was serene, softly glowing in the dim morning light. Around him sat his disciples, those who had followed him for many years. No one spoke, but all knew the time of farewell had come. Yet on the master's face there was no sign of fear or pain, only the tranquility of one preparing for a long journey with no luggage to carry. A disciple held his hand, trembling, tears falling onto the blanket. "Master," he whispered, "you are leaving us. When you are gone, who will we rely on?" The Zen master slowly opened his eyes. His voice was gentle like a breeze passing the veranda. "I am not leaving you. I am only changing into a new robe." Silence filled the room. Outside, a bamboo leaf fell, touching the roof tile with a sound so faint that only one listening with the whole heart could hear it. Another disciple asked softly, voice breaking, "Master, are you truly not afraid?" The master smiled, his eyes clear as an autumn lake. "Afraid? When you understand that you were never truly born, what is there to die?" Then he took a slow, deep, complete breath, as if merging with the breath of heaven and earth. The breath went out gently, like mist dissolving on a quiet lake, leaving behind a stillness so profound it filled the space. His face remained with a faint smile, the smile of one who had seen the heart of impermanence and melted into it like a dewdrop returning to the ocean, not lost, only transformed. Outside, a breeze rose. The old wooden door creaked open, letting in the scent of bamboo and the distant echo of a temple bell across the mountain. The sound was not a farewell. It was a song of welcome, greeting a soul who had completed his journey. The disciples gazed at their master's body. No one spoke, no one cried, yet no one felt loss, because deep within, they knew the master had never truly gone. In that small room, only absolute silence remained, not the silence of death, but of return. Return to the place where birth and death are only breaths, where every departure is just another step on the endless path of life. The master's words, "I am only changing into a new robe," were not a gentle farewell, but a living testimony to the wisdom of non-self and non-birth, the core of Buddhist insight. In his final moment, he did not speak of dying, but of transformation, as if simply changing an old garment for a fresh one. This body subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death is only a temporary robe. It is woven from earth, water, wind, and fire, and it will return to them. But the true self, the luminous awareness, the awakened mind, the Buddha nature, was never born, and thus can never die. When the body decays, only form dissolves. Knowing continues to flow like a river, changing course, but never disappearing. If we look at death through the lens of the body, we see an ending. But if we look through the lens of wisdom, we see transformation, like night giving way to day, or dew turning into cloud and rain. In the middle-length discourses, the Buddha taught, there is birth and there is death, but nirvana is the unborn, the undying. Death is only frightening when we identify with the body. When we think the body is me, we fear losing it. But when we understand we are only wearing this body temporarily, we can smile when it is time to change robes as the Master did gently, freely, unbound. From the view of modern psychology, the fear of death arises from the ego's refusal to accept impermanence. Psychologist Ernest Becker once said, "All human anxieties, competitions, and obsessions are efforts to escape the thought of death. We work ourselves to exhaustion, chase achievements, and seek recognition, all because we fear disappearing." Yet paradoxically, it is only when we dare to face death that we begin to truly live. Those who transcend the fear of death are not the bravest, but the wisest. They know that life does not belong to any one individual. It is the endless flow of the universe. To them, death is not loss, but a gentle turning, natural and calm, like a long breath merging with the wind. If you have ever lost someone you love, you understand death does not only take the person away, it leaves an emptiness inside you. That emptiness is not just grief, it is a doorway opening to fear, confusion, even anger. But if you are still enough to look deeply into it, you will see that very emptiness is the beginning of awakening. When someone departs, we face for the first time the truth of life's fragility. And through that loss, we begin to love more, to be less angry, to feel more gratitude. Death, in its deepest sense, is not an ending, but the greatest teacher showing us how to live. The Buddha taught his disciples, "Contemplate death every day so that you may see impermanence and cherish life." It may sound somber, but it is actually the path to inner freedom. When we no longer fear losing, we can finally live honestly. When we know that everything is temporary, we stop clinging to what cannot last. Today, science confirms the same truth. Research on death meditation shows that those who regularly reflect on death experience less anxiety and depression and a deeper sense of peace. They live more slowly, but more deeply, because to them, every moment is precious, as if it were the last. Death teaches us to live truthfully, because there is no time left for pretense. It teaches us to love, because no one stays forever. It teaches us to let go, because nothing can truly be held. And above all, it teaches us gratitude, because only when we realize that one day we will lose everything, do we finally learn to treasure every breath, every heartbeat of life. When night falls before you close your eyes, you can try a simple yet transformative practice. Breathe slowly, deeply, and see each exhalation as if it were your last. Not to be afraid, but to realize how precious this breath, this very moment, truly is. Breathe in and feel that you are alive. Breathe out and release everything not yet released. Burdens, regrets, anger, or unspoken words. Let them dissolve into the air light as mist leaving a leaf. If tonight were your last night, could you smile? If your answer is not yet, look at what is still holding you. Perhaps regret, resentment, or the habit of clinging to what was never yours. Then exhale gently and set it all down. To sleep mindfully is to die a little each day, dying to anxiety, attachment, and the illusion of self. And when morning comes, when you open your eyes, you are reborn in the same body, but with a renewed mind and life. That is the art of Zen, where each day is a full lifetime, each breath a birth and a death and another birth in awareness. When you live this way, death ceases to be frightening. It becomes a natural rhythm of breathing, the wondrous cadence of life smiling within you. After the Master's passing, his disciples gathered around the altar, hearts heavy and full. One asked, "The Master has gone. Who will guide us now?" A calm voice answered, "The Master's lamp has not gone out. It shines within each of our hearts." That sentence begins the next story about the journey to rediscover the inner light, when one no longer relies on a teacher or the outside world, but learns to kindle the flame within. For when we understand that the Buddha nature is self-luminous, we no longer fear the dark, because even in the dark, the light has always been there. There is a quiet fear in the hearts of those who practice the path, and in truth in the hearts of all who live the fear of losing the one who lights the way. From childhood, we rely on our parents to guide us. As adults, we seek teachers, mentors, and someone to depend on. Throughout our lives, we seem to be searching for light outside ourselves, a hand, a voice, a person to show us the way through the dark. But have you ever asked yourself, if the teacher is gone, where is that light now? Will our own mind be bright enough to walk through the darkness of life when no one stands ahead holding the lamp? That question has haunted many disciples in long nights when the darkness not only covers the room, but also shadows their faith. We fear being alone, losing direction, falling into the fog of ignorance. Yet, in Zen teaching, there is a simple saying, like a wind that blows out the outer lamp, not to leave us in darkness, but to awaken the inner flame. The story, The Lamp in the Night, begins from this very fear. A young disciple once asked his master, "Master, when the day comes that you are gone, who will guide us?" The Zen master smiled, his eyes calm like the moon over still water. "The lamp within your heart." From that moment, the disciple understood. The light was never in the lamp he held, but in the one who knew how to keep the fire alive within. After the master passed away, the monastery fell into a silence it had never known before. That night, the moon was hidden behind clouds, and the wind whispered through the pines, carrying the voice of the earth. It was as if even the mountains bowed in farewell to the one who had just left his body. The disciples gathered in the hall. The oil lamps flickered, casting trembling shadows. The air was thick with the scent of incense and sandalwood. In one corner, a young monk sat silently, his eyes glistening with tears. He had been closest to the master, walking beside him through many winters, listening to his teachings beneath the old pines. Now, as he looked at the monk's robe and bowl placed solemnly on the altar, he felt an immense emptiness, as though the world had just lost its guiding mountain. He thought to himself, "Without my master, where shall we turn? Who will guide us through the confusion of life?" He knelt, folded his hands, and whispered, "Master, please, tell me who will light the way when you are gone." Outside, the wind brushed against the oil lamp. The flame trembled like a fragile breath. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept in, and the lamp went out. The entire hall sank into deep darkness. The young disciple froze. His heart pounded. Fear rose within him, surrounded by blackness. He could see nothing, feel nothing, but the chill of the unknown. He fumbled for matches, but his trembling hand dropped them on the cold stone floor. All was silent. Then in that silence another voice arose, not from outside, but from deep within him. The lamp within your heart. He stopped. He no longer searched for fire, no longer feared the dark. He sat still, closed his eyes, and felt the rhythm of his breath. In the darkness, another kind of light began to appear, not the light of fire, but of awareness. It didn't shine through the eyes, but through the heart. He sat for a long time, until his breath merged with the stillness of the night. The darkness was still there, but it no longer frightened him, for he knew his master had never left. The master was in this very breath, in each step, in the awareness just awakened. At dawn the sky cleared. Sunlight touched the dew on the bamboo leaves. The young monk rose, took the old oil lamp, wiped away the soot, and lit it again. The flame rose warm and pure. But this time he knew it was not the flame before him that lit his path, but the light that had awakened within. From then on, darkness was no longer something to fear, but a place where light could be seen. The saying, "The lamp within your heart," is a deep symbol of Buddha nature, the innate light within every being. The Buddha once said, "Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Do not seek refuge in anyone else." This is not a denial of the teacher's role, but an awakening, a reminder that enlightenment cannot be given, only realized from within. Students of the way often make the same mistake, believing that wisdom or peace must come from someone else, from a teaching from a master. But the light has never been lost. The clouds of ignorance only hide it. Zen masters often say, "The teacher is only a finger pointing to the moon." If you keep staring at the finger, you'll never see the moon. A teacher cannot carry your karma. They awaken your ability to see clearly. The Dharma doesn't live in the words, it lives in the awareness that blossoms in the heart. In Zen, there is the idea of transmission of mind, not the passing of knowledge, but of seeing. Like one candle lighting another, the light neither increases nor diminishes. It simply continues. The body of the teacher may perish, but the flame burns on, for it was never anyone's possession. Even modern psychology echoes this truth. A therapist does not heal the patient, but helps them rediscover their own capacity for healing. Just as the Zen teacher does not grant peace, but reveals that peace has never left you. Throughout life, each of us meets many teachers. Some teach us knowledge. Some help us through pain. Some guide us when we are lost. They are the outer lamps that illuminate our path. But sooner or later there comes a time when we must walk on our own. When the one who supported us is gone, we may feel lost, anxious, even hopeless. Many believe they cannot stand without someone holding them. But in truth, every teacher is a bridge, leading us back to ourselves. When you see your true nature, you no longer need to lean on anyone, because awakening itself is the lamp that never goes out. Within each person are two sources of light, one from the outside, what we learn, hear, or read, and one from within awareness, compassion, and innate wisdom. The outer light can fade when a teacher passes away, when faith wavers, when life changes. But the inner light, once kindled by mindfulness and compassion, cannot be extinguished. Neuroscience confirms this is not just philosophy. During deep meditation, brain regions linked to fear and loneliness quiet down, while those related to love, presence, and inner confidence light up. In other words, when you awaken your own inner lamp, your brain literally becomes brighter. This inner light is not abstract. It is the clarity that lets you see anger without being ruled by it. It is the gentleness that lets you feel sadness and still offer kindness. It is the awareness that reminds you, even in the darkest night, darkness is only temporary, and in that moment, you realize the lamp within you has never gone out. It has only been waiting for you to return and see your own light. When night falls, imagine walking down a quiet path, guided only by the moon and your own breath. You don't need to search for light elsewhere. Let your heart become the lamp. Sit still for a few minutes before sleep. Close your eyes. Breathe in, simply notice the breath coming in. Breathe out gently. Smile, knowing you are alive. No need to focus or strive. Just know that within that stillness, a small light is shining, tender yet steady. It does not come from any outer lamp, but from your pure presence itself. If tomorrow everything changes, if someone you trust leaves, if the world around you darkens, that light still shines. For it does not belong to time, nor is it bound by form. It is the light of mindfulness, wisdom, and Buddha nature, the light that was never born and thus will never die. And as you fall asleep in that awareness, your rest becomes deep and peaceful. Darkness no longer frightens you. Loss no longer shakes you. For you carry the lamp in your heart, guiding you through dreams, where the inner light continues to glow, even with your eyes closed. The next morning, the young monk opened the temple doors and saw the bronze mirror before the Buddha's altar, covered in a thin layer of dust. He wiped it again and again, but it remained dull. An elder monk passed by and said, "The mirror is already bright. You've simply forgotten to look." The words stopped him cold. Perhaps just like the lamp last night, the light was never gone. It was only hidden by the dust of forgetfulness. And that leads to the next Zen story. The Dusty Mirror, where we learn awakening is not about creating more light, but about remembering what has always been shining. Sometimes in life we keep polishing a mirror, believing that if we just try a little harder, it will finally shine. We meditate, chant, pray, listen to countless teachings, and do everything we can to purify the mind. But the more we try, the dimmer the mirror seems to get, and the more tangled the mind becomes. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I meditate so much and still feel uneasy? Why does peace seem to move farther away the harder I seek it? The Buddha taught the mind is originally bright, it's only covered by the dust of ignorance. That dust doesn't come from the outside. It's made up of layers of thoughts, fears, anger, comparisons, and desires we accumulate each day. When we try to polish the mirror with dusty hands, we only make it duller. the light of the true mind has never gone out. It's still there, quietly shining like the sun behind the clouds. But we are too busy fixing, too eager to practice, too afraid of not being enough to see the simplest truth. The mind is already clear, it only needs stillness. In an ancient Zen monastery, there was a young novice who fell into that same trap every day. He polished a mirror praying for it to shine, yet the more he polished, the duller it became. One day, exhausted, he simply stopped, and in that very moment, the light appeared, not from anywhere else, but from the mirror that had always been there. That is the essence of Zen peace, does not come from effort to purify, but from pausing long enough to see that nothing needs purification. That morning, mist covered the courtyard. Dewdrops clung to pine needles like pearls. The sound of the temple bell echoed slowly through the cool air. In a small meditation hall, the novice sat silently before a large bronze mirror placed at the Buddha's feet. The mirror had long been untouched, its surface covered with a thick layer of dust. He carefully took a cloth and wiped it in small circles, wet, then dry, then wet again. His arms ached, sweat beaded on his forehead, but the mirror stayed dull. The more he wiped, the cloudier it grew. He frowned and sighed. I've been polishing since dawn, but the mirror still won't shine. Maybe I'm just clumsy. From the veranda, the old Zen master who was brewing tea looked up, his eyes gentle like morning steam. He called out softly, "My child, why are you polishing?" The novice answered, "To make the mirror bright." "Master, and if you keep polishing forever, will it shine?" "I think it will if I don't stop," the novice replied. The master was silent for a moment, then pointed to the dull surface. "The mirror is already bright. You've simply forgotten to look." The novice blinked, confused. "Forgotten to look?" The master nodded. "Are you wiping the dust on the mirror or the dust in your heart? If your mind is still clouded by agitation, even a bright mirror will appear dim." Those words stopped him. The cloth in his hand froze mid-air. The first light of dawn streamed through the window and fell upon the mirror. In that light, he saw his reflection, not perfect, but true. The master smiled and said softly, "When you stop trying to make the mirror bright, you will finally see the light. In the same way, when you stop trying to make your heart good, goodness naturally appears." The novice bowed and placed the cloth down. A deep breath escaped him, not from exhaustion, but from understanding. Outside, a gentle wind blew. Dust lifted and vanished into the air. In the golden light, the mirror looked clear, as if it had never held a speck of dust. In Zen, the mirror mind is an ancient and profound symbol. The human mind is like a clear mirror. It reflects all forms of the world, but clings to none. Over time, however, layers of delusion, desire, anger, and ignorance accumulate, covering that innate brightness. When we polish the mirror, we usually begin with effort, with will, with striving, with the wish to become pure. Yet within that very striving lies another layer of dust, the dust of wanting to be bright, the fear of not being enough, the anxiety of imperfection. In the act of wanting, we create more illusion. The Buddha taught, the mind is originally pure. It is only defiled by deluded thoughts. In other words, the true mind was never stained. We only mistake our thoughts, memories, and emotions for ourselves. When we polish through effort, we are fighting our own reflection. And the harder we fight, the murkier it becomes. Only when the mind stops, when the polisher and the mirror are no longer two, does light reveal itself. The Lankavatara Sutra says, "Clean without polishing, bright without shining." This is the state of no thought where the mind neither adds nor subtracts, and thus reflects all things as they are. Modern psychology calls this self-observation without judgment. When we stop trying to change our emotions and simply observe them, their energy naturally dissolves. Like a pond, if no more stones are thrown, its surface will calm by itself. Peace doesn't need to be created. It returns the moment we stop stirring. Each of us carries within a mirror our mind itself, but in the rush of daily life that mirror grows dim. The dust of comparison. They're better than me. The dust of fear. What if I fail? The dust of regret. I shouldn't have done that. And the dust of longing. I must find peace. I must be loved. Every day we try to polish the mirror with a new worry, and the more we polish, the dimmer it gets because our hands are still covered in dust. Buddhism teaches, you don't stop the dust by acting. You stop it by seeing clearly. When you simply notice, I am angry. I am afraid. I am wanting without resisting or fixing, the mind brightens on its own. The light arises not from effort, but from insight. Science now supports this truth. When people practice mindfulness, observing breath, feelings, and thoughts without judgment, the amygdala, the brain's fear and stress center, quiets down, while areas linked to awareness, compassion, and wisdom become more active. In other words, just seeing clearly makes the mind peaceful. No struggle, no forced cleansing. Just pause, look deeply, and in that moment, light appears like a mirror shining. Once it's no longer disturbed. Tonight, before you sleep, try something simple. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Imagine a mirror before you, the mirror of your own mind. On its surface, you may see the dust of today, a word you regret, a look that hurt, a worry that still lingers. But instead of trying to wipe them away, just look. Look with stillness, without judgment or blame. Simply know they are there. Then breathe softly. With each exhale, imagine a layer of dust dissolving into the air. With each inhale, see the mirror growing clearer, not because you made it shine, but because you stopped forgetting yourself. Then, lie down. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breath carry you home. Do not wish for peaceful sleep. Do not force your mind to be calm. Peace does not come from trying, it comes from stopping. When the mind no longer struggles, sleep comes naturally, like moonlight streaming through a window, uninvited yet perfectly timed. And in that moment, you realize there was never anything to wipe, never anything to fix. The mind has always been bright. You simply remembered its light. When the mirror of the mind truly shines, you begin to see all reflections within it coming and going, clear and fading, without needing to hold on to anything. You realize there is no solid self in any of those emotions. Anger arises and passes. Sadness appears and fades. Even the one who polishes the mirror is just a fleeting reflection with no enduring reality to grasp. Understanding this, you no longer fear impermanence, for you see that what changes is only form, not the luminous awareness behind it. When there is no I to cling, no other to blame, non-self is no longer a philosophy. It becomes a living freedom, breathing in each moment. Now the mirror is clear not because someone made it so, but because it was never truly dull. And when you step out to the porch and see the moonlight shimmering on the water, you understand something profound. The moon doesn't need to shine, and the water doesn't need to reflect. Yet light still appears. That is the way of impermanence and non-self, where every change becomes a natural flow, and awareness continues to illuminate your steps on the journey back to your true self. As tonight's journey ends, you and I have walked together through one of the deepest truths the Buddha revealed: impermanence and non-self. Not as theories to memorize, but as mirrors to reflect our own lives. Impermanence teaches us that nothing truly belongs to us. Everything comes and goes, like the breath, like the wind, like a flower that blooms and fades. And non-self shows us that within this flow of change there is no me that is lost or remains, only the natural dance of interdependent causes and conditions. When you see this clearly, a lightness arises. You are freed from the weight of the past, from the fear of loss, from the need to hold on. You stop clinging and begin to cherish each moment, knowing that its fragility is what makes life so precious. The Buddha said, "Whoever sees impermanence sees the Dharma. Whoever understands non-self touches liberation." And perhaps as you sit here tonight, breathing gently in stillness, you too have touched a quiet peace within yourself, where there is no grasping, no resistance. That is inner freedom, simple yet unshakable. If there is anything to carry with you into sleep tonight, let it be gratitude. Gratitude for a life that keeps changing, so that you may keep learning to love more deeply, let go more gently, and live more awake. Thank you for walking this path of understanding and stillness with Buddhism seeds. If tonight's story and teachings have touched you, please subscribe, like, and share to plant more seeds of peace in the world. And if you wish to share your reflections or stories, I invite you to leave a comment below, so together we may continue this dialogue through the light of wisdom and compassion. Now, allow your body and mind to rest. All worries can wait for tomorrow. Breathe softly and let sleep carry you back to the deepest peace, where there is no I know. Mine only breath and life gently embracing you. May you have a peaceful night and a luminous heart.